I'd like to call the West Covina City Council meeting to order. The invocation will be led by Pastor Samuel Martinez from Christian Faith Center. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, we thank you for the rights and the privileges we have in getting together here this evening. We thank you for all our soldiers, past and present, that have given their lives, that have served, that we may be able to enjoy the rights that we have to get together again this evening. And we thank you for our police officers, Father, and what they do daily. We ask that you protect our soldiers, you protect our police officers. And Father, we remember those that lost their lives, Father, in the latest school shooting, and we ask that you comfort the families, comfort that whole school, comfort the students, comfort, Father, the friends of those that lost their lives. Father, we ask that you keep our schools here in West Covina safe. And as we gather here this evening, we remember the words of our founding father, Benjamin Franklin, who said, God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? Father, we know the answer to this question. And so we ask for your help. We remember the words of King Solomon of old, who said, wisdom is a principal thing. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. He'll direct your path. So we acknowledge you. We ask for your intervention. Give wisdom to our mayor, the city council, our city manager, Father, and all those in authority in our wonderful city. Guide our affairs this evening. God bless America, and God bless our city, our great city of West Covina. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I please have roll call?
Councilmember Toma?
Here.
Councilmember Warshaw?
Here.
Councilman Wu?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Spence?
Here. Ms. City Attorney, are there any items to report out of tonight's closed session meeting?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. The council received on February 12th a report, a fact-finding report from the Public Employees Retirement Relations Board. Thank you. Gosh. Retirement must be on my mind, otherwise known as PERB, and we are required to make that report public within 10 days. So we are announcing that this evening, and the report can be obtained by making a request to the city clerk. I have nothing further.
Mr. City Manager, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Mr. and Mrs. Mayor and members of the City Council, the Pumpkin Run presentation for tonight needs to be pushed to March 6th due to scheduling conflict.
Thank you very much. As you probably guessed, you probably were pleasantly surprised that we had a new mayor and different council member and different council members. And, you know, this is part of Student Government Day that we participate in today, and they were assigned to different people. And you did a good job, Mayor. And they followed us for a certain period of time and sat in on meetings, and actually a couple of them helped plan the State of the City that's coming up. So that's so everybody understands, especially those people that just turned into YouTube wondering what was going on. So with that, I'll go and do presentations. You want to come up with me? not loud enough. The first presentation today is actually something that recognizes something that was actually yesterday. And it's been, I don't know how many years it's been recognized, but I know we did it a couple years ago here at the council, and that's the Day of Remembrance. And what we do is we remember that Franklin Roosevelt, when he was President of the United States after Pearl Harbor, signed an executive order that ordered Americans and people that were here legally to be rounded up based on their racial background. And they were sent to camps. And we know that, but we have someone from West Covina here that's been very important in helping to remember something that was very wrong. And that is Bacon Sakatani. Can you come forward, please? And this is a proclamation on the Day of Remembrance so that we remember that. The American government, 40 years later, President Ronald Reagan apologized for the actions of the American government in this effect. And Mr. Sakatani has been very important, and you were one of those individuals, weren't you? And you'd like to talk about it a little bit?
Yes. I was living at Sunset and Fairgrove when the war started. And soon after, the Executive Order 9066 took effect. All persons of Japanese ancestry, all aliens and non-aliens, you are report to the Los Angeles County Fairgrounds at Pomona with 6 days' notice with only what you can carry. And so after a few more months, when the permanent camp in Wyoming were finished, we were sent there. When the war was finished in 1945, my family returned to West Covina at Sunset and Merced. This was all farmland then. We farmed this property here at the City Hall, the library, and Kmart. Yeah. Okay, and then in 1998, President George H.W. Bush sent me an apology. And with this apology, there was this check for $20,000. And soon after, the state of California and the county of Los Angeles also offered their regrets. I thank the City Council for this proclamation and recognizing this day of remembrance.
You're going to get a photo in here, okay? We want to thank you for helping to remember that. And, one of the things that always struck me is even though the American government was unfair, how many individuals were still willing to fight for the country because of the values that they knew it was supposed to stand for. That always is something that always stood out to me. So, but thank you very much. And our mayor will give you this presentation. We'll have a picture, right? And we'll go from there. We have a proclamation proclaiming the week of February 18th to 24th as National Engineering Week, and is, who's coming down for this? Assistant City Engineer, Monica Herrera, where are you? And Chino, come
down. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and the rest of the City Council for this proclamation and recognition. For the benefit of the community, our engineers have been responsible for design and construction of approximately $13 million worth of capital improvements over the last 2 years, including the new Orangewood Park Soccer Field Complex, a soccer field in Palmview. We also did the Veterans Memorial out here. A number of street rehabilitation projects, a drought-tolerant planting renovation or conversion project, and so forth. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce my Assistant City Engineer, Monica Heredia. She's been with the city for 7 or 8 months now. Prior to coming here, she worked for the city of Santa Clarita for over 25 years, doing capital improvement projects. So her background in projects is very strong. So with that, Monica.
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to work here in this city. It's been a great challenge, and I'm glad to be here. There's a lot to be done, so we're very busy, and I'm just thankful to Chino for giving me the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
And thank you for helping us out with all our public works. And with that, Chino, if we can recognize National Engineering Week, come over here. Thank you. The new mayor gets to give you, I guess, a good. Now, if I could have the Chief of Police come down so we can talk about our awesome explorers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor. If I can have the explorers maybe come down and kind of line up in front. I don't know about that. Tonight, it's a great honor to be able to recognize the young men and women that make up our Police Explorer program. What you see before you is really the future of law enforcement. Our department's had a wonderful history of having outstanding personnel in our Explorer programs, and they've gone on to be both sworn and non-sworn members of our police department. They put in hard work, dedication, and truly don't get the recognition they deserve all the time. Every year, the Police Explorers have a competition in Chandler, Arizona. This year, there were 65 teams and over 1,000 explorers that attended, and our explorers did exceptionally well. And what I'd like to do now is introduce Sergeant Brian Prizzi, who's one of our Explorer advisors. He's going to talk a little bit about the competition and the awards they won.
Thank you. Just want to tell you a little bit about the post. It was actually started in 1967, so 51 years ago we've had this Explorer post. And these explorers, they have to do a lot of stuff. Some of the things that they have to do is go to a basic Explorer Academy, which is every Saturday for 20 weeks. We meet weekly, and they also have to do a lot of different details and things for the community. So this takes a lot of time and dedication. This is not like the typical sports where it's only for a season. This runs year-round, and we don't stop. So the young men and women you see here are really very, very dedicated, and they do a great job serving the community. One of the great things that we get to do, besides us having them stand at attention and yell at them, have them do push-ups and sit-ups and all those fun things, we get to go to competition, and that's one of the great things that we all look forward to. And in this competition at Chandler, Arizona, it is one of the best competitions that I've been involved in the 18 years I've been with the Explorer program. And they have so many different things that they have to do, from physical sports and teamwork type of events to a lot of tactical type of things that our SWAT teams would actually be doing, like hostage rescue and many of those things. So they represented the department and the city well, and they were able to get some trophies. So some of the things, the trophies that we got were first place in tubular assault, first place in a Visor 5K run, second place in decision shooting, third place in laser challenge, third place in a 5K run, and third place in a Visor obstacle course, and lastly, fifth place in a thing called Hogan's Alley. So I wanted to recognize the explorers, and when I call your name, if you don't mind, just step forward and then just step back so they know who you are, who participated in this. And if you don't mind holding your applause till we're done. So first is our leader of the Explorer Post, Explorer Lieutenant Flores. So Flores was actually recently hired as a part-time police cadet and has been doing a great job for our department. So this is one of the reasons why this post is here, is to get them ready to move to the next step. Sergeant Delgado, Corporal Awanesa, Explorer Garcia, Senior Explorer Casada, Explorer Moreno, Explorer Trigueros, Explorer Gaspar, Explorer Cornell, Explorer Rascon, recruit Ramos, recruit Villanuevos, and recruit Rodriguez. So those are the explorers that competed. Also, I like to thank them, but I like to thank all the advisors that took the time out of their busy lives to not only teach and train, but to mentor the next generation of protectors for our community. So I'd like to thank all of you guys.
We have some certificates for some of them. You want to call them out? Want to come out? You'll open it? Yeah, that's good. You're clever. I was trying to pass it off on you. That was good. That was good. Corporal Stephen McLean? Is that right? Okay. Maybe you can, yeah, I was about to say, yeah. There. Well, this is for the, we want to, there's several of these actually. These are awards for the Explorer Post for on behalf of the different the awards that you outlined. All of them?
These are leaders. So.
Explorer Adrian Garcia, we got third place. Yeah, pass it down. No, down. And then Officer Ian Paparo. That's that one. Yeah, that's yours. We got. That's a post one too. See. And these recognize the different awards that they received in the competition there, and we're proud of our explorers. Huh? Is that the last one? Okay. Oh, the post one. Okay. If we can recognize you, if you can come over here. So how do you want to do the photo op? They want to have you. How do we do that? Can you guys come down a little bit?
Move down this way.
Yeah, squeeze in. And I know the West Covina City Council, we appreciate the explorers. You guys do a great job here, and we're proud of the work you do as young people here in our community. We're grateful for you. So. Thank you very much, explorers. Thank you. You're great. Thank you. I'm going to ask the chief to stay up here a little bit because we'd like to recognize one of our West Covina PD unsung hero. If Officer Ty Covina, if you can come down here, please.
Again, it's a privilege to really recognize somebody pretty special to our organization. Ty Covina is a reserve officer with the department. He started in 1994, so he's going on his 24th year with the department, and just a great dedicated individual that works really hard. He's there anytime we need him. He normally works the council meetings, and but for anything we need him, he's there. This past January 14th, on a Sunday, he was on his way home from the Colorado River at about 8 o'clock at night. He was westbound on Interstate 40, coming up to Barstow. And he noticed that off to his right on one of the little service roads next to the freeway, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputy was in pursuit of a vehicle. And he also noticed that that deputy was by himself. There were no other law enforcement vehicles with him. So as they passed him, Officer Covina continued on and decided, you know, maybe he may need some help. So he decided to turn around and start heading back. Well, when he turned around, he noticed that the vehicle that was being pursued had been involved in an accident. So he went back to the next off-ramp. He got off. He assisted the deputy. and eventually found out that the deputy had been in an officer-involved shooting with the suspect of that vehicle, and he was there by himself waiting for backup units, which were quite a few minutes away. So Officer Covina decided to assist him in taking the suspect into custody, and it was several more minutes before the first law enforcement agency arrived. So I know that deputy is very grateful for Officer Cavanagh's dedication and service for stopping. Being out in the middle of the desert by yourself with a felony suspect being involved in a shooting is not a good thing. So I just want to commend Ty for his actions. He's definitely a hero, and I know the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department is also very happy with your actions as you possibly saved a deputy's life. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Everyone knows that, or people that know me know I don't talk very much, so this will be really short. I know, I'm kidding, son. It's my son. Anyway, thank you, Chief Taylor. Thank you, Commander Murray, Lieutenants Lee, Patton, and Plunkett, and my fellow officers, and my partner for the last 20 years, Steve Schaefer, who's also a range master here. I'm kind of embarrassed by this. I don't feel like I'm a hero. I really think that this kind of award is really an award. And by the way, thank you, City Council. That this award really does belong to the city of West Covina and to my brother and sister officers that I've been working with for the last 25 years. I honestly think that when you're off duty, we represent West Covina Police Department. And you know, I've worked with the best officers here, and I can tell you right now, there's not one officer at this department. That's why I think it belongs to all of us. They do this every day, especially the guys that are full-time guys. There's not one officer at this city that would not have done the same thing I did. Without regards for their lives, they do it every day. I've worked with these guys. We have a great bunch of officers, and I attribute it to the city council letting us have the training that we need. Everything that happened in the field that day, although scary afterwards, it came naturally. So I appreciate the training that you guys allow us and Chief that you give us. And thank you to the citizens of West Covina.
You know, you do represent West Covina, and you're the best at West Covina, and we appreciate you were in the right place, you were in the right time, but you did the right thing. And we appreciate you very much for doing that. And we'd like to recognize that, your bravery, with the West Covina PD Unsung Hero Award.
Thank you.
You want to have your family come up there? Picture? Yeah. Come up here. Hey, we're going to have the family come up for the picture.
My son's the only one.
Oh, the son? Okay, your son?
My wife doesn't think this is a big deal.
Yeah.
You didn't even tell her, did you?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, thank you, sir.
Right here for Kiwanis. Well, next we're going to be recognizing the, who's here from the Kiwanis, if you can come down. I don't know who's, oh, you're doing, okay. The president of Kiwanis is going to do it. Like I said today, are you going to tell a little bit about the program before we recognize them, or you want me to do it, or you want to? Yeah, I mean, today, the students came here, they were assigned to shadow different people, some of them elected officials, some of them different staff members, and they shadowed them the course of the day, and then they had a mock city council. Who's going to report on that, actually? Are you going to report on that? I'm going to ask the mayor to report on the mock city council. And it's not what I first thought it was, which was mocking the city council. But you know, I was really excited. But they had a mock city council where they went through the process of how we debate things and talk about things and vote on things. And so would you like to talk about that a little bit, Mayor?
Okay. This experience was really eye-opening to a lot of things that I didn't know about how city council meetings went. It was a real honor to not mock the mayor, but to have a mock meeting and being the mayor and getting that last vote. It was really fun being able to, you know, have that last word and making the final decisions. Thank you, West Covina City Council, for this opportunity.
They represent a lot of our different schools here in West Covina. We tried to get everybody from the different schools here. And how do you want to do the certificates? How do you want to do that? Okay. If you guys can get ready to come up here, how does it say? Alphabetical order by last name. Do you want to read them? Yeah, good job, man. I got you that time. I got you that time.
James Balancio.
And you try and stay up here, right? Yeah.
Me.
Oh, congratulations.
Joanne Krupi. Hannah Cruz. Giovanna DePilo. Soleil Gaeta. Jasmine Garcia. Irene Gomez. Javi Gonzalez. Nicholas Jenkins. Shannon Lowe. Daniela Lopez. Alfredo Jaime Luna. Jaime Osuna. Chris Palomenque.
That was exactly it, too.
Kevin Fan. Vivian Ponce. Yasmin Sanchez. And lastly, Mantang.
Actually, you know, I got the chance to talk briefly to them this morning. I told them everything I learned about politics, I learned in student government. You know, because I was a student body president at Edgewood High School, and all those things you learn, votes, having to get votes, you know, having to persuade people, how to make a motion, get stuff passed, do activities, what you can do, the process, all that stuff you learn in student government. And it's the same thing. So these are the future leaders of West Covina, our community here. And they have a big jump on all of us. And what's important about this, too, is that it's very important, the Kiwanis, they organized this, you staffed it, And we also have a certificate for you recognizing the Kiwanis' efforts on behalf of Student Government Day. And so thank you very much as far as being able to help us do this. It couldn't have been done without the Kiwanis. It couldn't have been done without you. I don't know if you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the mayor, to the council, City Manager Chris Freeland, who brought this project to us 5 years ago. We've been building on this for the past 5 years. It's just getting better. We're adding more things. And it's just a great opportunity for the kids to kind of see how city government works, give them that experience behind the scenes, so they realize what actually it takes in order to kind of run the city. It's very complicated. And so thanks again for the opportunity. Students, great work. Looking forward to seeing you guys next year. Thank you.
Can we get a photo? Can you all move in so we can do a photo? And did you guys want to do this? Do you want to be up here with the people method? Or are you okay? Okay. Copy what the explorers did and kind of do the 2 lines thing. That kind of worked. Yeah, and okay. You know, the school board members that are here can come down and get the photo too if they want to. So. Okay, I think we got it. I think we got them all, right? We got them all. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, good job. Hey, Chris, how do you say that? You know, and okay. One of the things, you know, we have the student government here today, but a couple years ago, the council adopted the Shop Local program, which encourages businesses to donate funds to after-school programs here in the city of West Covina. And at the same time, we hope that people will shop West Covina, and because those funds get to stay here in the city as well and to be used every time you buy something with sales tax, you know, we get a little piece of that, and it helps fund all the different programs here. But we received a donation, and if I can, Tony, you want to come down here? Tony, please? No, I'm serious. Mr. Wu loves this program. He talks about it all the time. He's the one that brought it before the council. But we have a sponsorship, right, from Aurora Lighting. If you could come forward. Is there people here? There you are. Yeah. Would you like to say a little something?
Yes. Actually, I might prepare a too long speech for you guys. First of all, Happy New Year. And this is our honor to be here representing my company, Aurora Lighting. We are a lighting manufacturer and Edison distributor. And our companies are just 5 minutes away from the City Hall. First of all, I would like to say thank you to the City Manager, Mr. Chris Freeland, for your invitation tonight. Together with me, I have my National Sales Director, Mr. Grant Hitomi, and my Operation Manager, Mr. Joshua Yao, and my very good friend from CAAWC, Angel Cho, and also my son, Jackie Chan, joining us for such a meaningful presentation to the City of West Covina after-school program. Aurora is specialized in energy-efficient products, including LED lighting and solar energy. We greatly appreciate the opportunity partnering with the City of West Covina for their energy-efficient retrofit projects. We have just finished the safety light project at the city intersections. I want to say special thank you to the Mayor Office, City Council members, City Manager Office, and City Engineering team for your support and trust. Our estimated energy savings is over 300,000 kilowatt-hour per year, which is equivalent to the yearly consumption of over 400 households in the City of West Covina. And we anticipate the savings will be over $1 million in the energy bill over the lifespan of our product. Once again, thanks for the opportunity and making this project so successful. Orioles always believe in giving back to the society. We have operations in Vietnam, and we have set up a scholarship called Oriole Education Fund. Our slogan is lighting up your future. Our goal is to help the underadvantaged middle school students in 8 different provinces in Vietnam. We provide scholarship to assist them in books and tuition fee. And we do understand the importance of community partnership and giving back to the society. After our council member, Mr. Tony Wu, introduced me to the program, I'm very impressed for such program provided to our students with additional opportunities for academic and social development. More important, there's no cost to the student families. This is such a great program for those students who do not have the resource for after-class programs and extracurricular activities. We share the same belief that every child has the ability to succeed. This program will definitely empower our students to believe in themselves and pursue for their own dreams. Just like our company mission, making our world greener and brighter for generations to enjoy. The WCUSD after-school program will definitely prepare our students for a brighter future. Now I would like to introduce my son, Jackie, to share just a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Like my dad said, my name is Jackie Chan, and I'm currently a 12th grade student at Walnut High School. I wanted to come up here and say a couple words to express my excitement, or the excitement that I felt when I first learned about this program and their mission. As a student myself, I understand the importance of being in an environment where I'm encouraged to develop and continue my academic goals. Over the course of my education, I've had many mentors, and at this age, I've come to appreciate and acknowledge the amount of help and their impact that their influence has provided for me, and what I believe a lot of my success is attributed to. So I would just like to commend this wonderful program for being there for their students and for providing that help and providing that mentorship for the students who need it. So from a student's perspective, just thank you and continue doing what you guys do.
Thank you. And on behalf of Oriole and my family, I would like to be part of this program. And I would like to present free $2,000 check to 3 school districts. The first one will be West Covina Unified School District. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Covina Valley Unified School District. Thank you. And last but not the least, the Woodland Unified School District. And I wish this program continues success. And Oriole will always be here to be your partner for all your projects and your programs. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, on behalf of the citizens of West Covina, we want to thank you for your sponsorship of the local after-school programs. And Aurora, we appreciate your commitment to the people here and the kids. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
Again, thank you very much. Although the school representatives, are you going to call them? Are you going to get it? Call them up. You're going to get to say a few words about what you're doing with the money that has come from the Shop Local program. And so, Nicole.
I just wanted to thank Oreo Lighting as your donation has reached our $50,000 mark for all 3 school districts combined. So thank you so much for your generosity. And at this time, we're going to ask the school districts to provide a brief update, and we'll start with West Covina Unified.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilmen, distinguished guests. We are so excited about this program. I'm Gloria Duncan, the Director of Secondary Education in the West Covina Unified School District, and this is the program. As you can see, it's a combination of a business and a school, and so it's a partnership that we started between the city of West Covina and the schools, and the purpose was to offer a very positive outlet for students, to enrich them, to solicit support for for businesses, and then to expand funding for after-school programs. So I bet you're wondering what we've used the money for. Well, before we get to that, you need to know about the programs, because there's still probably people out in the audience who might be interested in making a donation. For a mere $500 to $2,499, you will be given a certificate that you can post in your business, and you can prove to the community that you truly support the schools. If you want to go a little higher, between $2,500 and $4,999, you not only get the certificate, but you get recognized, as you see this evening, through not only the city council, but also through at the city hall, but also through the district. If you really want to go ahead and do some support, there's the gold sponsorship, and that not only allows the recognition through different media, but also as in the meetings. And then finally, we haven't had someone yet, so we're hoping that someone really wants to get a banner with their name on it, and for just a mere $10,000, you can be publicly recognized. We do? Okay, okay. Well, and if you go to the next slide, this is how much we've collected in the West Covina Unified School District. And so we are truly grateful too. You can see that we've had several sponsors at the 5,000 level. And all this money goes to after-school programs. So these programs were not, these particular opportunities were not available until this after-school program started. At Holland Crest Middle School, this is the first time ever they have actually a color guard where students can participate. Another really important program is the digital music program. So kids are actually designing, creating music. And we know that our young people love music and love to experiment in creating music. So these 2 programs are a direct result from our after-school program. And then at West Covina High School, we've always had the choir, but our choir has a unique opportunity to perform at Carnegie Hall in New York. And so we're using some of the money that we've collected to help fund this really amazing opportunity. So the bottom line is we have a partnership with the city and the schools, and together it's a win-win for everybody. The students win, the community wins, and business gets to show how they're supporting the schools. So thank you very much.
I'm David Malcolm with the Roland Unified School District. Roland Unified services many communities besides this Roland, and West Covina is one of the cities we serve. Matter of fact, I guess we now have a mayor at one of our schools at Nogales that we'll have to now tell our superintendent that she's been upped by 1 person. Over at Roland Unified, we're going to be using this money partly for the STEM program, after-school program we have, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But we also have recently expanded our music program to include music in all the grades. And specifically, the mariachi band is one that's gotten some good recognition in the community, and they need support, and we're going to be using it to help support them. So between STEM and music, this money will take us a long ways. We're constantly trying to do more and more in the community, and partnering with West Covina City Council and the Kiwanis Club and local businesses enables the school districts to do more by having that support from the local community. So we really appreciate that, and we hope that everybody will shop locally. Thank you.
Mr. Freeland?
Thank you, Mr. Member of City Council. As we have the audience here with the students as well as representatives from the school districts and for the community, one of the other wonderful programs we have kicked off at the start of the new year is offering opportunities for our local schools to start performing in our community as well. We've been reaching out to the high school and middle schools, as well as our elementary schools, if they wish, to go perform at the Lakes Entertainment Center, which has been dubbed informally as Crazy Ex-Girlfriend Square, for many of you who are familiar with the TV show that did some filming there. And so city staff has reached out to schools and will be scheduling time, but for those school officials that are here, please pass on that message that we're looking forward to having them start performing down there at the Lakes Entertainment Center for a couple of reasons. One is helps encourage more activity down there. We are seeing a lot of new activity there at the movie theater and some local restaurants, so we want to recognize the students that do that, as well as we're looking at opportunities for competitions between the schools, whether it be maybe the high school bands out there for a competition or other things. So please keep your calendars open as we start programming down there, because there's a lot of exciting opportunities down there. So thank you.
And just so everybody knows, what time is it you have to get out of here, 8:30? 8:30. Yeah, the students are going to get to disappear at 8:30. So, they're just going to get up and leave because they have homework or something like that, right? That they still have to do tonight. So, but we're going to continue on with the rest of our meeting, and they're going to participate until that time, and then they're free to go at that time. What? Yeah. Right now, Council, we have adjournment motions that, and tonight, we'd like to adjourn our council meeting in honor of retired police attendant Lieutenant Ron Mitchell. He recently passed away last week from a heart attack at the age of 57. He was the voice of West Covina High School football. If you ever attended football games, you know that. And he was involved in the San Gabriel Valley National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And our serious condolences go to the entire Mitchell family. It was a shock to us, and he was a very important part of the community. Tonight, I'd also like to adjourn our city council meeting in honor of the 17 victims of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Parkland, Florida. The shooting is especially poignant today as we have our local high school students here with us today for Student Government Day. We've lowered the flags to half staff at all our city facilities in honor of the victims, and our hearts break for those that have been impacted by it. And is there any other adjournment motions from any other? Okay, City Clerk, please note these adjournment motions at the end of the meeting, and thank you.
Will do.
Okay, we're now on our oral communications. Yeah, you ready for that? And if you filled out a yellow card, we will call you up here, and you have an option of going from 1, 3 to 5 minutes. If you circle 1, you get to go first. If you circle 5, you get to go last. And so, if let's see, Lisa Mayo, who will be followed by Jim Grivich.
Hello, Mayor Spinks and Madam Mayor and all the other council members and all the young ladies and young men here. My name is Lisa Mayo, and I am a resident of West Covina for 38 years. But today I represent the Lions Club. Our motto is "We serve." But one of the best things about us serving is also that we do a lot of things for the community. And I came from the west side. But the best part about living in West Covina is that we believe in helping our youth, helping people that are blind, that are homeless. I could go on and on about what the Lions Club does, as I am a member of the Lions Club. But I'm here to thank Mr. Bob Baker, Councilman James Toma, Mayor Pro Tem Lloyd Johnson, for coming through for the second year in a row to help us with our speech contest for students. Nothing gives me more pleasure than in honoring the people that serve our community. Because the one thing, and I explained that to Mr. Baker, was the one thing that you can give us and give our students is time, because that's one thing we can never replace. And so when we give time to our students and our community, then we are serving. So without further ado, I just wanted to thank all of you for coming and honoring the Lions Club of West Covina. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Jim Grivich, followed by Michael Feinstein.
I'm Jim Grivich, longtime resident, City of West Covina. I'm here primarily to thank you for responding to my request. The city manager has submitted at this meeting a over $2 million budget adjustment, essentially taking money out of your reserves to cover your deficit spending. And as I asked for last December and actually previously brought up back in October, the city has a serious financial issue with respect to essentially spending more than it's taking in. And since my professional career was dealing with community colleges that did the same thing over years and went bankrupt, I was brought in as a consultant to correct the situation after they were already bankrupt. And I'm hoping that this city will avoid that. In each of those cases where I it was Compton, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Oakland, the problem began several years before they actually began bankrupt, and it started the same way it's starting in West Covina. As you may remember, last year you had a $1 million deficit spending in your budget. This year it's over $2 million. And I suspect, unless significant action is taken by this city council to change it, next year the number will be higher, and pretty soon your reserve will be gone. And then you will be facing bankruptcy. This is not a problem that's unique to West Covina. Cities all over the state are facing the same problem, essentially brought about by the fact that there's a statewide phenomenon with the retirement costs going up faster than your revenues can support, and also your medical costs are going up faster than your revenues can support. Expenditures are rising faster, and your employees expect raises that kind of stay even with inflation. Well, you can't take care of all those things. You don't have enough revenue. You need to take action to essentially either increase revenue or decrease expenditures. As of this moment, you haven't done that. And until you do, the specter of bankruptcy looms. And I do want to tell a little story that goes with this. It isn't really required that you completely avoid the problem. And I'm going to be very careful about the way I say this. There is a story about when a bear is chasing a bunch of people. It isn't important to be faster than the bear. The only thing that's important is to be faster than the slowest guy that's running away from the bear. You don't want to be one of the early ones to go bankrupt because what you will face is dramatic layoffs and severe reduction in city services if you're in that category. You need to be not in that group. You need to be one of the later ones. Why? Because the state of California will finally get around to dealing with the horrible retirement situation after a whole bunch of people start going bankrupt. They'll have to. They'll be forced to do it. And you just don't want to be one of those people. You want to be later in the group. Then once they start dealing with it, then you will be able to respond to the problem. So you've got to take actions now. It's a lot easier to do it early than it is late, because late it's just massive layoffs and severe reductions in city services. Now you can do it with reasonable kinds of changes. The city manager has suggested something, which is not hiring non-safety people. That's a start, but I think you have to do more than that. That's not really enough. It's not going to solve the problem. So that's it. Thank you.
Michael Feinstein, and followed by Tam Din.
Good evening. My name is Michael Feinstein. I'm a former mayor and city council member in Santa Monica, co-founder of the Green Party of California, and a 2018 candidate for Secretary of State. I'm running on a platform plank that would give more voice to your residents and to your city. I'm passing a map around there with what I'm proposing, and it is to change how we elect our state legislature. California has the worst per capita representation in the United States. We have only 40 members of the state Senate, only 80 in the state Assembly, and that's for a population of almost 40 million people. The size of our legislature was set in 1879 when we only had 865,000 people. Now we have more people per state Senate district. So if we want the state legislature to look like the people of California and really reflect the diversity of the people in California, then we need to have it large enough so that it really can reflect that diversity. That's number one. What I'm recommending is that half of the legislature is elected from smaller single-seat districts, 250 smaller districts than we have today, and half of them by regional multi-county districts by proportional representation. How does that relate to your city from a regional perspective? Your city, like my city, is a member of SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments. That's where we have regional public policy discussions, only in SCAG, and then SCAG lobbies our state legislature. The public actually doesn't have regional public policy debates and elections. We don't send people to Sacramento out of a public process that deals with the actual regional nature of how our lives are in California. So in this manner, when you think of your RHNA numbers, your regional housing needs assessment numbers, for example, there's no real regional discussion of how that works to inform the state legislature. Same thing with a lot of other policies that we have. So what I'd like to see happen, and I've been going to a lot of different city councils, I was actually at SCAG this morning, is for your staff, for you to give some direction. I know you can't do it tonight, but at some point to give some direction to your staff to look into this idea on how electing our state legislature would actually give more voice to your community and really reflect better the nature of how public policy and how our lifestyles are, because we're both a nation state and a state of regions, but the way that we elect people is stuck in the 19th century. Thank you for your time.
Tam Din, followed by John Shoemaker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, staff, and the audience. My name is Tam Din. I'm a board member of the Greater West Covina, and I'm here on behalf of our Executive Director, Monica Farias, and our President, Andy McIntyre. I was given notice half an hour before this meeting to be here tonight, so bear with me if I stumble on stuff. But first of all, I want to thank City Council for allowing the Greater West Covina to be here since August of 2013 for about 4 years. We are moving to a new location. We are going to be at 198 Plaza Drive at the mall, lower level, right next to JCPenney, and we will be sending out invitation once we have the grand opening. And a couple of upcoming events I'd like to bring up is we have coming up on March 15, the City of West Covina State of the City address with the school district update, and that's at Craft Hill, which Mr. Intermeals here himself. That's March 15th. And then also we have upcoming April 12th at Hearst Ranch, which is our annual West Covina Public Safety Awards Luncheon. And we also wanted to mention that Greater West Covina, we are a big supporter of Shop After School program because it helps businesses and it creates foot traffic in the area for the businesses also. And a little bit about Greater West Covina, we offer memberships for many categories from individual to large businesses as well as our President's Circle. So thank you very much.
John Shoemaker, followed by Chris Miller.
Good evening. Two items, or probably three. Two items is the new code amendment. Hope you'll take that off. You know, it's kind of interesting that what was the case June of 2015, and it gets brought up in February of 2018, not too long before an election. And it was kind of funny reading some of it. It says treat all signs the same. So you have an open sign period from August 15th to November 15th. You know, it's more of when you start taking away political signs, it's more of the the Incumbent Protection Act more than anything else, because it makes it harder for an upstart to come in and knock you out. And especially with districts, you know, not every district has major, a district that has a thoroughfare, an upstart can't come in and put signs in and make it a little bit easier to get their name out. So there's a way around the problem, and it's treating all signs the same for that 2 or 3 month period. But that would be too easy. The other thing, the second quarter financial report, you know, surprise, surprise. We're spending more than we're bringing in, and we're not bringing in as much as we thought we were going to. Shocking. You know, yes, I'm being sarcastic. One of the things that, you know, the city talks about, you need more revenues, you need more of this. You know, I've worked in industry about 40 years as an accountant, as the top guy in a finance department. You know, it was absolutely amazing that whenever we had to make a cut, say, of 10% of the people for various reasons, we had a reduction in cost of at least 10%, if not more. Our city, specifically, and government in general, can have a reduction in cost of personnel of 20%, and the cost goes up 25%. How does that happen? Well, you cut out 5% of the people and give the ones who are left a 6 or 7% pay raise. Over a period of time, you've spent a lot more money than you should have. You know, I know it's difficult to comprehend, especially in city government, but if you bring in $1, you don't spend $1.02. You spend $1 or less. You know, it's real easy to figure out. You know, but it also requires some accurate budgeting. And you know, one of the things that I've always noticed at the end of the year is, isn't it amazing how close the final budget is that's put on reports to the actual results? What I'd really like to see being presented is, what was the original budget and what were the line items that you spent? Because then it brings up that, oh, we were going to add 10 people throughout the city. We didn't add them. We paid for overtime and things like that. You know, it shows what the thought process is and where the money gets moved around at the end of the year, which is actually hiding problems that you probably had from day one. And the last item is just, it hasn't necessarily come up officially, but I keep hearing this thing about a sales tax or a property tax to fund public safety. That's equivalent to giving this city more money to, if I was drowning, handing me a glass of water. You know, that's not the issue. You know, you're giving more, but there's no efficiency. Where is all this money going to go? You know, you haven't solved the initial problem of what's going on. You're just giving more money that's going to get blown instead of actually creating something. You know, we've had, you know, you have to stop to think about what's going on in the city when the school district can go out and ask for $143 million and it gets accepted 3-1. The city goes out and asks for $2 million and it gets defeated 2-1. Think about that a little bit and maybe you'll get yourself in order. Thank you.
Chris Miller, followed by Elsie Messman.
Student leaders, city council, mayor, city manager, city staff. First, I want to say I'm disappointed on the action item 2 of the signs passing last city council meeting, especially with an election coming up. A lot of the same sentiment that John Shoemaker says, I believe in. The next one is agenda item 7. I mean, this push for multi-use housing, expanding, and basically making the city more dense. You know, why is it a community like Lakewood can basically make their ends meet, serve their community? You know, you drive into the city, they have a motto, times change, values don't. Yet it seems like we're trying to become a bigger, you know, more urban city when many of us, when we bought our houses, didn't buy into that. In fact, some of us ran from that. On item 9, the boom truck, you know, it seemed to me that, you know, this truck that's 26 years old has been lacking maintenance because the fact that you're having a, you know, cooling system problem, the fact that the seals on the hydraulics are 26 years old, they should be replaced. And it only has 120,000 miles on it, or under 120. That's less than 5,000 a year. And that's with old lighting technology. Going forward, you know, we have LED, which has at least 80,000 hours of burn time. So that truck will be used even less. So, you know, the question is, do we need our own truck? Can we partner with another city? Secondly, in the way of, you know, purchasing the truck, why can't we do a reverse bid to multiple dealers and multiple manufacturers? Why is it a Ford truck? Because we have a maintenance yard that we're leasing out the area to a Ford dealer? You know, there's many options out there. Also on the, I wish the gentleman who owns the lighting company stayed. My backyard now is lit because the lights at the intersection. Something really needs to be done for the cutoff angle on the fixtures because it's putting out a lot of light pollution. I mean, the amount of stars I can see at night have gone down drastically since those lights have been put in. You know, there's a dark sky initiative of trying to get rid of light pollution. And it seems like we're going backwards. I really hope we're not putting the same lights. You know, I see the benefit at the intersection because you can really see at night. But something needs to be done for the light pollution that's exiting the intersection. And then finally, on item 13, you know, much of John's sentiment, we have a spending problem, and it's only getting worse. We really need to, you know, buckle down, you know, such things as buying a truck, how we do a procurement process. You know, it's many items. Why are we always getting consultants? Why can't we, you know, do things in-house? Thank you.
Elsie Messman, followed by Alfred Williams.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, everyone here tonight and at home. My name is Elsie Messman, and I'm a resident of West Covina. I have given some reports to council as I can't seem to get an answer from our city manager for transparency. In fact, the warrants reports are getting worse, so I would like the council to act on these issues. Item number 10 regarding the crosswalk at Shadow Oak Drive not to exceed $60,170. Is this amount going to be charged to Maintenance District 4, or is the city going to pay for it? We have been waiting for a bathroom at Shadow Oak Park for 2 years. Improvements have been made in many parks in other parts of the city. This park is 26 acres, and we have 2 baseball fields, a basketball court, a tennis court, 2 picnic shelters, and a small, outdated play area for the children. It's a darn shame that when I talk to my neighbors, they have to go to La Puente to the splash pad at Sunrise Park, which isn't a safe area, or Shadow Oak Drive to Walnut to the play area there for their children and grandchildren. Our city manager needs to get his staff out and talk to the people, not hire new consultants every month to do their work. Also, I would like to ask anyone in Maintenance District 1, 2, 6, or 7 to make a public document request regarding charges made to the district. I am in Maintenance District 4, and I find that the city is charging us this year around $80,000 for salary plus benefits for an employee or employees. And they want to charge us for removing homeless encampments behind shopping centers at Amar and Azusa. A wrought iron fence that was a safety issue for over $11,000 was charged to us. And I see that there's 2 more charges for wrought iron fence plus the bee removal, to just to name a few. Are we not part of West Covina? We pay our taxes like everyone else. I pay $348 a year to upkeep our paseos, which I have no complaint about. Then when I talked to our acting engineer to reform, that there is a lot more items that could be charged to us. Who pays for it when it's not in a maintenance district? I assume the city pays for it if there's a homeless encampment. We are not being treated fairly, and I hope that some of this council will put a stop to this. Stop charging unfair changes to the Maintenance District 4, because we have a reserve. They just keep charging whatever they want. And I would like an answer in writing as soon as possible why this is happening. Thank you.
Alfred Williams.
Good evening. My name is Alfred Williams, over 40 year residents of West Covina. First, I'd like to say something about Officer Ron Mitchell. I didn't know he had passed, but he was, when the South area was built up, Ron was one of the officers that he got out there with the kids, and the kids knew him as a friend. One young man who had actually killed someone would only let Ron Mitchell take him in. That's the kind of person he was. He knew all the kids by name. And he was I wish we had more officers like that, because since him, I have not seen officers in the park talking and being with the kids, and the kids liking as much as him. The other problem that I have is that I've heard from a neighbor that they tried to turn in some cars parked on the street, and our parking enforcement asked him what was the address. He said the street has no address, because we have a few streets in our neighborhood that are feeder streets that have no houses on them. So we don't have really an address. But they told him they couldn't come out and do anything about it because there was no address. If this is true, I think this council needs to do something about it and change that. At least a cross-section or get something. Don't tell the person that you can't do anything about it because it doesn't have an address. I think Mr. Washoe could, I don't know if Oliver Grand is in the West Covina, but if there's a car been parked about 500 feet behind his house, and he says, hey, come out and look at it, he can't give him an address, because I don't think there's an address in that part of Grand until you get another half mile down the street. There's a house that has an address. But the parking enforcement people told this person that they couldn't do anything about it because they didn't have an address. I think this is wrong. I think we need to find a way to at least get a cross-section or something and have an officer come out and look at it. we have quite a few, I guess, rental people in the neighborhood now. And I know there are 2 people on Adrian. Each one of them got 6 cars apiece on the street and 3 or 4 in the driveway, which is, and people have called, and parking enforcement has done nothing about it. So I think we need to at least talk to parking enforcement and find a solution for this problem. Thank you.
Okay, yep. Supposed to hit that? No. That was our last card for public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council? Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break so that it'll be easier to transition the student government folks out, and we'll be back here at 8:30. We're on a break. We can start getting everybody back.
You took so long.
I got snagged out there. Okay, we'd like to get the train going. If everybody can come back. Who are we missing? Tony? Mr. Wu? Hey, no, thank you. It was good. It was good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting back to order. If you want to have stuff you want to continue talking about, you can do it out in the back there, and that includes council members that want to do that. We're on the consent agenda. Is there any item that people want to take off consent? You're going to do?
Mr. Mayor, I want number 2.
Okay, item number 2 is being taken off consent. Any other items? Corey? Mr. Orchon? You good?
Yes, Mr.
What?
No.
Yeah, after I get done with this.
I'd like to take off 5 and 8.
Okay, 5 and 8. What do you want to take off? You guys want to take off anything? 2, 5, and 8 are being taken off. Okay.
5 and 8. 2, 5, and 8.
Yeah, okay. Mr. City Manager, do you want to respond to anything from public comments at this time?
I would love to do so. All right, so there was a couple residents got up and spoke about a variety of different issues. One resident was asking about, not getting follow-up from the city manager's office regarding the warrant registers. I have not received a single request from that resident in our office or to myself. And I've offered that many and many times from that resident. In the future, that resident is welcome to contact me directly, but they have not. Saying so, the items on here are regarding the attorney's legal bills, which are not for review from the public. However, like I said, if there's certain questions, I'd be more than happy to address that specifically with that resident. Including there's requests here for a breakdown of, how the fire department spends petty cash and that as well, and those again are audited, but we do have, it just says that they're regarding PD supplies or fire department supplies. If they wish to see more specific on those, they're welcome to do so, and we can provide that detail to that individual. But again, that individual needs to make sure they submit that information. Regarding the restrooms at Shadow Oak Park, there have not been any capital improvements done in any of our city parks since the City Council dedicated the funds to the soccer complex. City Council's direction has been there will be no capital improvements done at other city parks until funding is completed for the restrooms, the playground, and the parking lot at Shadow Oak Park. And so there has not been any capital projects done. That does not mean we're not maintaining our parks, which we have to do. Regarding the Shadow Oak Park Shadow Oak Park crosswalks that's on your agenda this evening, that's using transportation funds. It's not being charged to the different maintenance districts. And as a reminder to folks, if they're not sure what our maintenance districts are, that was something that your developer established when you moved, before you moved into your home. The developer said, we as a developer do not want to create a homeowners association and charge a monthly fee and maintain that. So we, under state law, are passing that responsibility on to the cities. The cities are able to, by state law, collect a fee to do the maintenance work that are in those maintenance districts. So if there's vandalism from graffiti, if there is trees that need to be replaced, if there's fences getting knocked down that maintenance district, that's no different if you had your own homeowner association. They would be responsible for paying and fixing those items as well. There was a gentleman that spoke about parking enforcement based on address. They said that was through a third party. I'm not sure, maybe if that original party wanted to reach out to us, be more than happy to speak to them directly. But parking enforcement is able to do so without an address. You just give us a street and our nearest cross street, and I'm sure that the police department can look into it. But I want to remind folks that people are allowed to legally park on city streets for 72 hours. So what happens is the police department will come by, mark the tire, let's say now, and then 72 hours from now, if they go back out there and that car is still there, that's when they can legally cite it. If that car moves anytime during that 72 hours, they have not broken the law. Okay, but again, there was a recommendation that there was some parking on Adrian Street. We'll follow up with the police department, have them go look at that tomorrow. There were some items regarding the budget, which we will address when we get to the budget itself. And I believe that was it.
Well, there was the general plan annual report. It was on. The general plan report, there was a question about us approving stuff. That's just reporting what our plan currently is, right?
No, that's an annual report that's required by state law, correct?
That's what we are already
yes,
done.
It's just saying that this is what has been adopted by the city council, and have we accomplished any of the goals that are established there? And that will be an ongoing annual report that we're required under state law moving forward.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for the city manager? Okay, we'll go to the consent agenda. I've had requests to take items 2, 5, and 8 off. Anything else? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Warshaw.
I'd like to approve all other items besides 2, 5, and 8.
Okay, is there a second?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Warshaw and seconded by Mr. Wu that we approve the consent agenda, but take off items 2, 5, and 8. All in favor, any objection to consent? That's approved. Item number 2, Mr. Johnson, you pulled that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I pulled this item because we talked about it 2 weeks ago. And I felt 2 weeks ago that it was wrong for us to do this, and I still feel it's that way. What we're doing, we're eliminating those with freedom of speech if they want to run for council or whatever they want to do. You say, yes, you can put signs in people's yards, but you can't put them in public right-of-ways. But at the same time, you eliminated their ability to get their name out there. Because just by putting them in the yards right there, you're eliminating those folks that doesn't have an advantage. Like your incumbents have more of an advantage because they're well-known in the city than anybody that's running. And I don't see a problem. I know we're talking about there's a problem with this. I've never seen a problem because we have a time limit. The signs can go off from a certain time to a certain time. They have to come down. I just don't see a problem with it, and I think we ought to reverse it. And yeah.
Okay. I know I was going to pull this if Mr. Johnson did it, and I just wanted to appeal to the council to reconsider what we did at that meeting. You know, normally when someone just, you know, when we oppose stuff, we just oppose it again the second time it goes through. The idea that we're going to restrict and take out political signs from the right-of-way, at the same time we say we want more people to participate in our city government, doesn't make sense to me, because people won't know what's going on. And then this ordinance is seriously flawed because it does allow signs on private property with written consent. Most candidates don't do that. You know, we just ask them to put it up. But we're going to be required under this ordinance, if we're going to actually follow it, you know, obey the law, have written consent in order to put that on, or to have that on there. And someone's going to have to keep track of that. And the other thing about this that really, really bothered me is that we did carve out an exception for real estate signs. And I know Mr. Wu is a realtor, and they love signs. They know signs work, right? They got to have signs saying this is for rent, this is for rent, this is for sale. I get that. And it's very important they do that because housing is very important. Are we saying that that's more important than having an idea of who we will elect to represent the citizens here at the city council? That's not important? I think it is. I think it's vitally important. And we've got to have the ability to participate in the political process. And this council is restricted in other areas, from financing to all kinds of things. But this is just putting up signs, something that we've always been able to do in West Covina. And yeah, does that mean we have to allow other temporary signs? So what? Because it's important that we are able to participate in the political process and people know what's going on and have that opportunity. And so I hope the council, someone will change their mind. I know on other issues it happens all the time. So I'm hoping, because this would be a serious mistake, I think, to adopt it in its current form. Mr. Wu?
Yeah, I have a question for the city managers regarding this coordinate. Last time, my understanding, this is what we need to comply with the state law, right? And they requested to do something due to the issue. This is not my understanding. This is something we need to coordinate with what the state law. Am I right?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the change was made, this particular change that has been addressed by the mayor and the mayor pro tem was made because of case law that says you can't, if you're going to say you can't have thus and such kind of speech in the public right of way, that you can, you can't prohibit any kind. So if you allow political speech signs in the public right-of-way, you have to pretty much allow any signs in the public right-of-way. And that was the problem that why staff made the recommendation to Planning Commission, and Planning Commission in turn recommended to you that that provision allowing signs in the public right-of-way be eliminated.
On this privilege only have a certain time during the election time, am I right? It's like 3 months from when you allowed the signs up, like in July, right? So if the election is November, so the city only allowed this temporary sign come up with 3 months, and then after the election is over, everything so everything should be disappear. So keep the city clean.
Well, that's something that could potentially be discussed. However, the provisions as they existed on this issue prohibited the placement of such signs more than 75 days prior to an election. That pre-election limitation has been struck down by courts. I think the other difficulty is that as it currently, or as it previously read, I guess as it still currently reads, the limitation, there is no such limitation. It's a temporary sign, but the only limitation in the temporary sign code is that 75 days in advance of an event, which is, as I say, the courts have struck down, in particular have struck down for political speech. So we're in a little bit of a difficult situation here because on the one hand, you want to promote speech in the public right-of-way, but on the other hand, allowing speech in the public right-of-way sort of opens the door to every kind of speech, and for a duration that we may have less control over. That's the problem.
And next question would be the written consent, the written consent. So meaning, okay, if say people want to put the sign in somebody's front yard, do you need a written consent at all?
In actual fact, that language is in our current code. Yeah.
Mr. Dustoma.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I didn't perceive that the first time, and so I'd actually be willing to take that out in terms of the written permission for a private property owner. I didn't realize that. I fully think you need to get permission from the owner, but I don't think you need to have written consent. If there's a particular legal issue that I'm not aware of that came up with this case, let me know. But that I did not understand that to be the case the first time. So I would actually move, I still support it, I would move to remove the written consent requirement. The other thing on the public right-of-way that I just want to make clear, the property in front of a lot of people's houses is actually a right-of-way, correct?
That's
like correct. A lot of people don't understand that in front of on their property, there's a space in front of your property but before the street that is considered the right-of-way, which means anybody, if we don't restrict it, anybody can put basically whatever sign they want there for 75 days or whatever it is because of this new case. In the past, we could restrict it to just political signs because that's what our political sign temporary ordinance did. Now, under the Supreme Court decision, anyone can basically take up any sign and put it basically in front of your property, which most people think is their own property, don't realize that it doesn't belong to them in many cases. And I just want to confirm that is the correct factual situation. Is that right?
That's correct. Most of the time, that right-of-way in front of your property, particularly where there are sidewalks, that parkway, that's considered public property. Even if it's just an easement, it's the public that controls the use of that. And so someone, if we do make that change, someone could put a sign that completely differs from your particular viewpoint, candidate, whatever it might be, in the parkway in front of your home.
And you would be liable as a property owner for removing that sign that's in front of your own property. Is that correct? I mean, you would be prohibited from removing that sign if it's in the public right-of-way?
If we permit it in the public right-of-way, yes.
That's the way all political signs were before, but this is the case is that all signs can be that way.
Yes.
Then I want to address why is real estate promotion and renting apartments more important than electing representatives? According to this, that's what it says.
The proposed ordinance included specific findings so that you could allow real estate temporary signs like open house and directional signs for new developments and so on because of the pressing need for directing people to housing in the community.
Right, and so why is that considered more important than electing representatives? Why is that considered speech more important than political speech?
That's a call that the council makes. That's not a call that we make, but in order to allow for that kind of signage without allowing for all kinds of signage, you do have to make a specific finding to that effect.
So what keeps us from a council of making specific findings about participating in the political process and following the state constitution and state laws as they relate to electing officials? Why can't we make findings that would do that?
Unfortunately, the courts have taken that particular distinction out of our hands.
So, but real estate's okay. That's the most important thing that we can do.
Yes, sir.
Now, garage sales, people can't post signs for that anymore, right?
Not in the public right-of-way, no.
In the public right-of-way, correct. So that would not be allowed. Car washes would not be allowed for funerals unless we made specific findings. Because, you know, there's people that do car washes in order to pay for funerals of loved ones all the time that have signs up. You know, there's things like that up that couldn't be allowed either.
Yeah, they wouldn't be allowed in the public
Okay.
right-of-way. They would
Right.
be allowed
Okay.
in people's yards and any private property like a service station or a grocery store where they would allow that.
So basically, this decision is what speech this council values above all else. If we approve this, it will be we're deciding that instead of risking more speech, we're going to have only one type of speech, real estate, in the public right away.
Well, again, these are all policy calls
know.
for the council. The difficulty is you cannot single out
Anything but real estate.
campaign signs because if you can put campaign signs up, you can put anything up.
That's right. Okay. I understand that. I'm willing to take that risk. I mean, I think it's that important that we allow people to participate in the process. So,
Mr. Mayor.
So, go ahead.
So I want to understand, is it just political signs 75 days, or is it no? If we allow signs in the public right-of-way, can you put any kind of restriction on them?
If we did a content-neutral time, place, and manner restriction, we could. That's not what we have today.
Right. So can we say 75 days only in the months of when there's an election? I don't think that would be legal. If you did it by event, anyone's having an event can do it any time in the year at any time, and then we're talking foreclosure signs, or we're talking, are you looking for a job? We're talking literally anything anybody can put up as long as it's taken down in 75 days. So you're talking throughout the year. Is that correct?
Correct. But one of the cases that we had to address in drafting these amendments specifically invalidated a provision that only allowed a sign for a specific amount of time before an event. I don't even remember now whether in that case it was an election or something else. In fact, I believe it was something else. And so that's the difficulty is understanding the desire to provide an enhanced protection for political speech, which, you know, I definitely understand. The courts have really made it difficult for us to do that.
So literally, our hands are tied. We either allow people to put up signs whenever they want for as long as they want, or we have to limit political signs along with everything else but real estate for open houses, that sort of thing. Is that correct?
Based on the law as it stands today, I would say yes.
And because of that, I cannot see that type of clutter in our city throughout the year. I think everyone will have an equal chance, although I would like to, you know, have that as far as the political signs, because I'm surprised the courts have ruled that way, but they have. But I cannot see us having that kind of clutter throughout our city all year long, so I won't be changing my vote.
I'd like to make a motion that we change this to allow political speech and the horror of someone posting job notices and things like that in the public right-of-way, that we allow speech in the public right-of-way in West Covina. And to strike the written part of the second part. I would like to do that. Obviously, it would be first reading if we did that, right?
Either way, yeah. With any of those changes would require a new first reading. Yes.
Exactly.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to change it to allow all speech in the public square. And stricken. You want to do a roll call vote, please?
Johnson?
Aye.
Toma?
No.
Warshaw?
No.
Wu?
Nope.
Spence?
Aye. Motion fails 2-3.
So,
Mr. Toma.
yeah, I'd like to move the proposed ordinance, but to amend it to eliminate the written requirement under the prior consent of the property owner, so that signs may be placed on private property with the consent of the property owner.
Yes, if I could, that would be in section 26-314A. The word written in the first line would be stricken based upon that proposal.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to do that by striking the word written. So it's property owners, not the person who lives there. Is that correct, Mr. Toma?
Yeah, can we do that where it is the owner or resident?
We can, well, as
Owner
used
or
here,
occupant?
property owner includes tenant in possession.
It does? Okay.
Yes. Yes. So that would be a new first reading, and if there was a second.
Second.
The ordinance would be an ordinance of the City Council of the City of West Covina, California, to amend Chapter 26, Article 7 of the West Covina Municipal Code relating to signs.
I will be voting no on this. I did bring up the written thing last time, as a concern. I'm glad that's finally being stricken. But I still think that limiting all speech except for real estate is contrary to a better community. So I'll be voting no. Anyone else have anything they want to say? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Johnson?
No.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Spence?
No. Motion passes 3-2. We're on item number 5, purchase of self-controlled breathing apparatus. Mr. Warshaw?
Yes, I'd actually like to have the fire chief come down. I really don't have a problem, other than I noticed that this is for 100 masks. We don't have 100 firefighters in the city, so I had a question as to why it's 100.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of the council, city staff, and all that in attendance. So your question was, why are we ordering 100? Okay, well, in hopes that we're going to get over 100 employees here pretty soon. No, in reality, we have 76 currently right now. And as the SCBAs that we currently replace, those are housed and staffed on all of our apparatuses, all of our frontline engines, reserve engines, trucks, and rescues. However, our masks are sized to fit to the individual, and so they're custom. So you're going to need at least 76. Unfortunately, if one goes bad during a fire or a different incident is broken, it needs to be replaced, obviously, and if we don't have reserves, it takes months to order those. So we thought it'd be prudent to get 100 for the 76 members, and also in hopes that maybe at some point we could also increase our membership. We would have those masks available, because these masks cannot be shared or utilized by other individuals, as I mentioned, because they are sized to fit for the individual for a proper seal.
And so has that in the past been our normal policy to buy those extras because of those reasons?
That's absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, questions about how long this mask lasts, okay, the expiration date. Okay, because if we purchase hundreds, I know you need some backup spare to replace, but how long this thing will last? So meaning you don't want to buy a lot of stuff and a couple years later, everything will be obsolete. So.
No, I'm sorry, these should last, it all depends. I mean, if we, how much we utilize them, how we maintain them, they can last several years, even.
How many years? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years.
At least.
If I may add, as we have people retire and come into the organization, you require a new mask at that time as well. So it's not just, the existing personnel, but as personnel leave the organization, we need to have a replacement mask for them when they start on board as well.
Any other questions from council?
Yeah, I just want to
Mr.
make sure
Olshaw?
it's my understanding that just because someone leaves, you can't give them that mask to a new person because it's sort of sealed for them and it's got to be airtight.
That's correct. Like I had mentioned earlier, they're sized to fit. So in essence, they're custom. They're made for the individual employee's body shape, face shape. So once that's been conformed, you can't pass it on and share it to somebody else. So that's correct.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Chief, when was the last time masks were actually replaced for the fire department?
I don't have that in front of me, but
An estimate?
about 10 years. It's been quite some time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Real quick, so the 25 extra ones are not conformed? Is that, or did you pick someone's face that you think might break theirs? Or, I mean.
No, they come in different sizes. So, a great question.
Because you talk about they're kind of custom, and then there's obviously 25 that aren't custom.
No, you're absolutely right. But so they come in different sizes, so anywhere from extra small, medium, large, extra large, and double X. So.
Thank you. Anything else on this item? Is there a motion?
I move to approve item number 5.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Warshaw and seconded by Mr. Johnson to go ahead and approve this item. Any objection to consent? Okay, the item is approved. Item number 8, Mr. Warshaw, you pulled this?
Yes, and if I could have, I think probably someone from the police department. This is the award of contract for new citywide phone system, including police, fire, and state funding for 9/11 dispatch upgrades. Oh.
Yeah, he's right there.
Didn't see you there, sorry.
Go ahead, Commander. Good evening.
So I noticed we didn't take the lowest bidder, and it was primarily because the company that makes the mask that's being recommended has bought the other company out. Oh, excuse me, phone system.
Don't scare me like that.
Right. Fire was in there, so I was still talking, right. And so, and the reason that we didn't want to do that was because they might not be supporting that. Has that been the fact before? And it talked about lower pricing on the maintenance. Is there a difference between the two phone systems, or is that just a general?
I'm actually going to let Mr. Granger respond on that. He managed the RFP. This project actually has 3 phases of it, part of which is the state-funded Cal OES replacement of the 911 Vesta system, which recurs every 5 years. I believe the component you're speaking of is the city phone replacement for the VoIP, which is the internal phone lines, the roughly 78 lines that the police department has, dedicated fax lines and that stuff, and Sean can probably explain that much more eloquently than I can.
Thank you, council members and mayor. So basically, the lower system has a couple of features that that didn't seem to fit the city, and one of them that you're referring to is that the Mitel system did buy out ShoreTel. That came in January, which was actually after we started this whole process. The Mitel systems for police and fire are a little bit more robust, and so we felt like they would last longer. The lifespan of these systems typically is 10 years. That's how long they're warranted for, but most cities will use them for 15 or more, or in our case, which is about 20 years, our last phone system. So, so we took all that into account when we chose the difference. The other factor that's kind of key here is that the Mitel system, it's the redundancy is actually each site has a controller. In the ShoreTel, it has 3 controllers. What that means is if there's an earthquake and we lose connection, every site can come up and we can keep our system going. And we can take phone calls for police, fire, and there won't be any interruption. We can move phones from site to site. With 3, we have 3 points of failure that could wipe out our phone system. So those are key components that are different in the 2 systems that we thought warranted.
So it's more than what your report says, because your report just mentioned that while Land Intelligence provided the lowest price point of the 3 finalists, the evaluation team had concerns about the product line proposed. The ShoreTel product line was recently acquired by Mitel and rebranded as Mitel Connect. Historically, in technology acquisition, the product of the company being acquired ultimately goes away at some point. The fear is in that in 5 to 10 years, the city will again be faced with a hybrid system. That was your only reason for doing it, but there's actually more.
So we probably, so there was a couple of reasons we chose it, not just for that one.
Okay, and then you talked about one of the reasons also for doing this, there's an annual savings in maintenance costs of a reduction of more than $5,000. So our maintenance costs right now, it's about $23,000?
Yeah, so basically our system, like I said, is about 20 years old. And the service about that 10-year point starts drastically going up. So we can't, 5 years is what it is today, but we're not even assured that our rates for our current system next year won't rise even greatly, because usually after that 10 to 15 years, every year there's going to be an increase, because their cost of helping and maintaining the service, their increases. So that's going to continue. With this system, we basically will have a lower cost today and a savings today, and that's only going to rise as the years go on.
So where you talk about the maintenance costs being year 1 through 5 of $18,000, that's part of the contract, but after year 5 they can raise that rate. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
Thank you. With that,
Is there a general difference in quality when you go from analog to the voice over internet protocol?
So the quality of this this would be better because the system we have right now is a very old and analog lines. This voice over IP is actually using new Cat6 cables throughout. It's not a web hosted like the quality you would get from some of the internet phones. It's not that. This is just basically using saving us the lines. So it's actually using data lines, the same that we use for computers. And actually we save on it because we only need one line to each site. We don't have to pull a separate line for phone and computer. Each site only has one cable.
I had a quick question, and that is, when you were picking the 3 top proposals, the top 3 proposals, one of them was the Presidio Newport Beach Cisco system, right? And the reason I bring that up is that at the top it says that, there was one that didn't fill all the bid information, and then the proposal from Verizon was considered cost prohibitive. But there was only, less than $60,000 difference between the Cisco one and the Verizon one. So why wasn't the Presidio one, considered cost prohibitive?
So the reason we brought in Cisco is because we basically took the lowest of the Verizon is, in the long term, was much more costly because
Than this?
of the year.
Than what the number here?
Yeah, for a 10-year period, it's well over like $1.3 million. So that one seemed, in the long term, not. We're planning for long term here. I mean, that's what we want to do. So that didn't really seem to fit our model. The Cisco we brought in because we had the lowest of the ShoreTel. We also brought in the lowest of the Mitel, and then we brought in the lowest of the Cisco. But Cisco also, the other reason we brought them is they are considered the top tier for the Magic Quadrant in the IT world. The Magic Quadrant is how we rate, the companies. And so in this arena, they're considered the best quality of work. But in the end, the cost had to be considered, so.
Thank you. Any other questions?
You were talking about Cat 6 line.
Yes.
Do we already have Cat 6, or does this include the installation of the Cat 6?
So we already have the Cat 6E. So we did that in the fall.
Okay, and we won't need those other lines that we had anymore.
Yeah, so we'll be able to pull the old lines, which are dying anyway. So it's, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve agenda item number 8.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Warshon, seconded by Mr. Wu to approve the award of contract for the citywide phone system, including police and fire and state funding for 911 dispatch upgrades. Is there any objection to consent? Okay, it's approved 5-0. Now we go to item number 12. This matter is set for public hearing, consists of a code amendment to Chapter 4.5 of the West Covina Municipal Code related to alarm systems. Will the city clerk verify that proper legal notice has been given?
So verified.
Verified. At this time, I shall open the public hearing on amending Municipal Code Chapter 4.5 alarm systems. First, there'll be a staff report. Mr. Freeland, who will present the staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will have 2 individuals with that staff report. We have Lieutenant Ken Plunkett from our police department, as well as Russell Narahara, our management analyst from the fire department. So if you give them a second, they do have a PowerPoint presentation to put together.
Okay, we will give them a second.
Maybe.
Yeah. Right. Do we need to tell jokes for the YouTube audience, or how do we do that? How do we do that or something? Do some singing. Yeah. How are we gonna? Yeah, we want to keep them, interested.
We can tell about the homeless meeting next week.
Oh, okay. And what time is it? What time does it start? On Monday at 6:30 at Cortez at the Senior Center is going to be a meeting to discuss the homeless plan that the city's put together. I know it will be streamed, right? It's going to be broadcast, correct? So that will be live on YouTube as well. And so Monday, 6:30 at Cortez, talk about the homeless plan. I know we approved something at our last meeting, and it seemed like everybody was focusing that was the only thing that was happening about all kinds of stuff and some confusion. But that's a place where you can get your questions answered and give ideas. So Monday at 6:30 at the Cortez Senior Center. And is that a second? Are we ready? Please make sure you go and see the state of the city on Craft Hill.
Is there a cost to that?
I believe there is a cost. You can find out more from the, I'm not that, no. 300?
No.
Oh, are we ready now? Okay, Mr. Freeland, you want to tell staff to start, please?
Staff, please start.
Well done.
Is this on? Yes, we're on. There we go. Good evening, Mayor Spence, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, Councilman Warshaw, Wu, and Toma, city staff. I am Ken Plunkett from the police department, lieutenant, and I'm here with Russell from representing the fire department. Tonight, Russell and I are here to discuss some modifications to our proposed false alarm cost recovery program in conjunction with PMAM. And before we begin our presentation, we'd just like to point out that outside on the table, just outside the council chambers, there's packets with frequently asked questions and answers. So if anybody's interested in picking that up, if you have questions that come up through this presentation or after, they're there for you. So with that said, I pass it over to Russell.
Thank you, Ken. Across the nation in California, technological improvements and the decreased cost of ownership have led to an increase in alarm system ownership and as a result, an increase in the number of false alarms. Today, consumers can remotely arm or disarm their security system, receive notifications and monitor cameras through their smartphones or tablets. In addition, leading communication service providers like AT&T, Time Warner, and Verizon have gone beyond phone and cable services and started selling integrated home services, which add home security and monitoring to their traditional market offerings. These reasons have led to an increased number of false alarms. An interesting fact is, throughout the United States, there are actually approximately 13,000 alarm companies operating. With regard to how many of those 13,000 operate within West Covina, we're not exactly certain. But the number of alarm companies out there is pretty mind-boggling. So what does that mean? Let's look at the data. As shown, the police department responds to approximately 2,300 alarm calls per year. 98% of those end up being a false alarm. A typical response to an alarm call is 2 officers, where the average time to clear the call is about 30 minutes. The fully burdened hourly rate for a police officer is $173, which is not just salary and benefits, it also includes city and department overhead. And overall, the police department is spending, as shown, approximately 2,300 man-hours on false alarms and about $400,000. Now into the fire department. Fire department responds to approximately 25% of the total false alarms that the police department responds to. However, we look at every single alarm call as a potential fire. And as a result, we need to send 20 personnel to each alarm call. The reason is we need to make sure that we're prepared if that alarm call actually is an active fire. We need to have the resources ready to go to ensure that we can properly attack the fire and have the backup resources to make sure the fire is put out properly. To respond, each of the 20 personnel have their own hourly rates, which adds up to approximately $1,200 for that 30-minute incident. And as shown, approximately 4,500 man-hours are spent responding to false alarms by the fire department, and about $545,000 is spent responding to false alarms. So in total, police and fire combined, public safety as a whole, as you can see, we're spending almost $1 million in terms of wages and potential spent time responding to these false alarms when we could potentially be responding to other things. And in city government, we look at time as the most valuable resource, which is why we wanted to start this presentation with these statistics. Now, what are some typical causes of a false alarm? As shown on the slide here, a lot of times it's user error or not sharing correct information with those who are in your home, such as babysitters or other types of professionals who may be in your home while you're not, or potentially going into your home after you forget something, because we've all done that. And you run into your home and you forget to reset your alarm, and while you're in your home, the alarm goes off. Or that we're busy people and we don't maintain our systems, or we don't ask the companies who we subscribe to their services, we don't ask those companies to come out to our homes just because a lot of us just forget to maintain our own systems. But all of these reasons lead to false alarms, and to my original points, lead to the problem we're facing in public safety, where we're expending a lot of time and resources. So when the police department responds, for instance, they are not certain who lives in that home, but they do know that there's potentially an active burglary happening. Imagine you're a police officer in the middle of the night responding, open door ajar, you see it, you're approaching.
and you are greeted by someone who claims to be the homeowner. Well, as a police officer, how do you know? How do you know if that person who is greeting you at the front door saying they live there is actually the actual owner? This is where access to real-time information is critical, where the responding officers know exactly who should be on premises or potentially who the backup contacts are, since those alarm owners are on vacation. Now, we could ask, and our city attorney has researched, that the city can mandate that all alarm companies provide key pieces of information every single time a call is dispatched to our city. The problem, as you might imagine, is the number of alarm companies. It'd essentially be like herding cats in a way, in that there are way too many alarm companies to try and enforce our policies against. So what's our solution? Last year in June, the city had awarded an RFP for the for the management of our false alarm billing program. And the RFP was responded to by 4 companies, and PMAM was the recommended vendor based upon numerous criteria that were looked at with regard to grading or scoring each of the proposals received from the 4 companies. Essentially, staff found PMAM to have the best combination of positive customer referrals, which is really big with us, because just because we go through this RFP process and a company may look great at the beginning, we want to know how the company looks 3 to 4 years into a contract. And PMAM came out with flying colors. The revenue split, which I'll talk about in a little bit, since it can be a little bit of a confusing term, along with the integration with a city's CAD system, or computer-aided dispatch. What that is essentially is the database or the system that the city dispatchers operate when 911 calls are coming in, and when they're managing those 911 calls and dispatching them out. Locally, as you can see from the slide, PMAM also has a pretty strong presence in Southern California. All of these reasons combined led to city staff recommending PMAM to be awarded as the vendor of record for false alarm billing and management services. So as I alluded to, the revenue split, what does that mean? Most of the vendors who responded to the RFP essentially explained that the revenue that they would earn would only come from the revenue generated from the program. Essentially, the city would not have to use general fund dollars to pay the vendor. The program would pay for itself. One of the vendors listed on the bottom, as you can see, Data Ticket, chose not to recommend a revenue split. Rather, it was a fee for service where there would be a cost out of the city's general fund initially to pay for those services. The point of this slide is just to represent that PMAM had one of the lowest revenue splits out there, and combined with all the positive customer referrals, integration of the city's CAD system, it made sense to award PMAM the contract. So why was the city thinking about outsourcing to begin with? Why not run the program in-house with city staff? Well, as I alluded to before, there's no investment required from the city at all. Infrastructure costs as well would all be managed by the company. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, a properly functioning false alarm program has a lot of components to it, which include the billing, obviously, the tracking of alarm calls, the education provided to alarm users to help them understand how to prevent false alarms from happening to begin with. Because education really is the only way to really, truly decrease the number of false alarms, to essentially get people's attention and let them know that, hey, by you not paying attention, by you letting your alarm system create these false alarms, you're creating a little bit of a drain on public safety resources. And other things such as online portals that allow alarm companies to extract, to download, to upload, to basically make sure all of the data for their customers within West Covina is correct. For the customers themselves to understand, well, where am I at? How many false alarms have I had? Do I owe any money? Do I need to make sure I'm doing anything to help the city out with regard to, again, this problem we're having, namely false alarms? For corporations who have multiple locations, there are portals where that business owner who has 7 locations can go to that one location to log in to see the activity for all 7 of the locations, whether they had fire alarm systems installed or police burglar alarms installed. The point is that PMAM helped provide the infrastructure so the city wouldn't have to build all these different systems. As you can see in this later part of the slide, well, how does outsourcing PMAM actually help reduce the number of false alarms? Well, in addition to those branded websites and web portals I talked about, they've actually created an online alarm academy. I'll show you in a screenshot in a little bit. And what exactly is an online alarm academy? An online alarm academy essentially allows the alarm owner to go through a quote-unquote alarm school, a very quick 10 to 15 minute exercise where they're asked to review some materials and take a short quiz afterwards. If they pass the quiz with a certain percentage, I think it's a 70% or better scoring ratio, the first false alarm fine that they were assessed will be waived by the company. So essentially, we are trying to let the community know that, hey, we understand that life is busy, that there are a lot of things going on, but if you can please just take this alarm school, we'll allow you the opportunity to waive that first alarm fine. Later on, if your system continuously happens to register false alarms, unfortunately, we're going to have to charge you from a cost recovery standpoint, since, again, this whole program is built around cost recovery. The whole point is that the Alarm Academy is just a novel way to help create a relationship between the alarm user and their responsibility in terms of having that alarm system. Multimedia CDs, now what exactly are those? Well, they're essentially just CDs, like the days when AOL would send out tons of CDs in the mail, where on each CD would be vital information talking to the alarm owner about, again, their responsibility as an alarm owner, how to prevent false alarms. And more importantly, these multimedia CDs are used as a marketing tool where PMAM on behalf of the city would send that multimedia CD along with a letter to our alarm owners who have registered the most number of false alarms in a given time period to essentially try to flag them or get them to understand or notice that, hey, there's a problem. You guys should probably take a look at what's going on. And finally, a very key point, in addition to a toll-free number where residents or anybody, alarm owners, businesses can call and ask questions via the toll-free number, the key point is PMAM developed a single database that records and collects information for all of those 13,000 different businesses, where instead of having a city staffer trying to coordinate, correspond with these 13,000 different companies who potentially are working in West Covina, PMAM, it does it for us, because the portal that they've created for the alarm industry is a portal that's used across the United States, not just centralized here in Southern California. So alarm businesses that are located in Missouri to New York to California all utilize the same portal, all have to register their information in the same place. With zip codes, we're able to identify those alarm users that, for instance, ADT have as customers that are centralized here in West Covina. The key point being a single database for us to understand what's going on instead of having to work with a variety of different companies. So here's an example of a city-branded web portal. This branded web portal happens to be from our sister city, the city of Covina, who also is working with PMAM and started working with them about a couple years ago. This would be an example of the web portal our community would have access to, where the community can log in to understand, again, information about how to prevent false alarms. They would go here to actually register their alarm permits, pay any fees or fines that are due, along with take the online alarm academy to waive that first alarm fine. On this next slide, you'll see some of the example recommendations that would be included on the multimedia CD. Again, a lot of these points are very basic and straightforward, but again, the CD is used as a reminder to the business that there's a problem. So why have an alarm permit to begin with? As I've touched on, the alarm permit allows us to have a single database of alarm information accessible in real time by police and fire. To that previous example, where the police officer is responding and the person who is at the door is claiming to be the owner of the home. If we had this alarm permit, it would provide our dispatchers the ability to provide that type of information to our responding officers in real time, instead of, again, trying to rely on city staff who may have gone home for the day, who may have access to the data collected from the alarm owners as provided to us by the alarm companies. I'm only bringing this up again because this was a key theme from the December 5th meeting. Why have an alarm permit? Why can't the city just ask the alarm companies to provide the information? The key point is, again, that we need to have the real-time information to respond accordingly. The alarm permit also allows us to effectively track the number of alarms at a location, to do trend analysis, to pull reports, to see who the most frequent alarm users are, to schedule in-person meetings with not only the property manager of that business, but also the business owner's alarm administrator or company, so we can all work toward a resolution to what's going on. For the business owner's contact information to remain current, this is a problem because in the alarm industry, there are a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and contact information may be lost. And finally, for that business owner who has multiple locations, an alarm permit makes it that much easier to manage all of their locations under a single permit, logged in through a single web portal. So what information does the alarm permit require? As you can see, very basic information. The alarm owner's contact information, the contact information for those people who will be looking after the home should the owner be on vacation, a trained guard dog. As you may recall from the December 5th meeting, my co-partner here, Ken, talked about how unfortunately our police department ran into a guard dog in responding to an alarm. And unfortunately, that dog was put down for the safety of the officers. From a fire department standpoint, the existence of hazardous materials in the location on the site. As you might imagine, if there's an active fire or potentially an active fire, the existence of hazardous materials could create a situation that makes it that much harder to contain and control. And any special information that alarm owner may want to provide, perhaps maybe the existence of an elderly parent or aunt or uncle who's living on site where, hey, please realize that if someone doesn't get to the door within a reasonable amount of time, it's because they have trouble getting out of bed. But the key point I want to leave all of you with regard to this slide is that the alarm permit will never ask information about things such as guns you may have on site in your home, the number of people who live on site in your home, or other information that you deem to be private, that you want to keep because of your own privacy concerns. The alarm permit would never ask for that type of information. So how much is an alarm permit? Again, the alarm permit pays for the infrastructure of this alarm system. At the December 5th meeting, we proposed an alarm permit fee of $25 per year. Tonight, we're proposing an alarm permit fee of $10 per year. The key difference and reason being is that there was some opposition to the $25 price point, and we were provided a suggestion that we should bring it down to $10, so that is what we are doing tonight. As you can see from a survey of surrounding communities, if approved, $10 as an annual permit would be the lowest in the region. So do alarm permits work? Here are some specific examples from other cities throughout the nation that PM/AM considers a customer, where, as you can see, the programs do work. And why do the programs work? The key phrase is PM/AM offers a consistent engagement model. PM/AM is consistently looking at who whether a private resident or a business, who is registering the false alarm, and they go through many, many hours trying to figure out how they can educate that alarm user, working with city staff, people like myself, to, again, schedule on-site meetings. The key point being education. And regarding the cost to run or pay for the infrastructure for this alarm program, why not charge the alarm companies? Well, a few cities in California tried doing that, specifically a city, Fontana, where they essentially established a system that charged the alarm companies for their customers' false alarms, or for their residents' false alarms. The alarm industry challenged this. Specifically, they sued the city of Fontana, and they won. As of January 1st, 2018, which is pretty, again, last month, there's a new law in California where cities are not allowed to charge alarm companies for their customers' false alarms. The key reason is that, at least as provided by the alarm industry, we as an alarm industry installed the customer's alarm correctly, properly. We're in the business of doing things correctly. It's our brand, it's our reputation. Why that alarm system had a lot of false alarms afterwards, we can't tell you. And I don't know all the details of this case, but I do know, again, that the alarm industry prevailed. Other cities also have tried to charge the permit fee to the alarm companies. Again, to a previous slide, with there being 13,000 alarm companies in the United States, as you might imagine, it's a little tough to create that dialogue with some of the smaller companies. And as you might imagine, even if those cities had charged the alarm permit fee to the private alarm company, there's a very good chance the alarm company would just pass that charge on to the customers, which PMAM provided us as a detail that was happening in those cities who tried. Will reducing false alarms improve response times? Well, each city is different. Each city has a different way in which they enforce the laws of their city, and every city has different call volume and different level of crime. We look at that question, and the better way to look at that question rather as being, are the public safety resources in West Covina efficiently and effectively utilizing the resources provided to us to do the best job for the community? We believe that if the number of false alarms are reduced, we will have more time. Time being the most critical component of why we're up here today. Time to focus on prevention activities, for officers to walk the streets, for officers to do those things that they do to prevent crimes, for the fire engine companies to start conducting more inspections of businesses, since we believe that fire prevention is the most important step to preventing fires. And in general, just generally being more available for those things that the community expects of public safety here in West Covina. Benefits to the police and fire. As alluded to, we'll have access to more real-time information, contact information, special conditions when we arrive on scene. All the police and fire departments here are looking for is just access to information. That's all. In summary, the goals really of these proposed ordinances is to create a balance between the resources provided to us as public safety departments for the city of West Covina, and for those alarm owners and alarm companies, for them to take ownership and responsibility about and regarding their own alarm systems. So we thank you for your time and want to open it up for questions.
Are there any questions from the council? Mr. Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I think we went through this last time about your presentation. Okay, now this time, okay, I think you more detailed talk about this company, PNAM. Okay, so you explained about this company is about. So I want to ask you about how reputable this company is. Okay, so the PNAM is showing the city they service. This is all the places. How about the neighborhoods, the city they service? For example, Warner, Diamond Bar, okay, Covina, okay, Arcadia, because I know Arcadia, they have this system. And I know Temple City don't have this, they don't have this system. So I want to understand, okay, this system will work. So it all sounds pretty good because you did a good presentation, but it's really will work, okay? And that's my question. And another thing, okay, so I want to see the number after PM, AM, okay, install, become the monitor on top of the monitor, and then everything really reduce our surrounding neighborhood. I don't want to see the Texas, okay, Florida, this. I want to see our neighboring, okay, city. That's apple to apple, orange to orange, rather than you go to freaking another far away places. And another thing regarding, okay, we basically charged only $10. It's some very cheap. But I really don't trust the outsourcing company, same thing like our licensing, okay, right now, okay, end up they coming back, right now I have so many complaints from the resident regarding they feel like they get overcharged. So instead of $10, it would be just a year $10, would be something they're gonna lead to charge our resident, the alarm owner, more money because they say, okay, you have to pay this, you have to pay that. Do we have a control about this fee? Yeah, then maybe the first year is $10. How about the next year? They maybe raise the fee. Or maybe there's something to go wrong. Okay, they're starting charging you tremendous amount. Do we have a control about, they have a limit about something? Do we have some kind of fee scheduling? And another thing is, okay, so how we guarantee we hire this AMPN, this company, and they can guarantee this false alarm will be reduced? Because again, what I'm saying is I own the alarm, so I control the alarm. I want to make sure I don't get fined because I have a false alarm. Okay, now this P&A company coming in, will they really reduce, okay, and the $10, how can they afford to have a schooling and send people to their home? So I kind of don't understand this is really feasible for the business point of view. Okay, thank you.
Would you care to answer all those, please?
Which one first?
Yeah.
So we will attempt to answer all those questions. We took copious notes. I would also like to introduce Michael over here. Michael is a representative from PMAM. Do you want to join us at the podium? So Michael, if you can try to answer any of the questions you can, and I'll chime in with anything you don't answer.
Sure. I think one sorry, thank you for inviting me. I think one of your questions was about the percentage drop. We actually average a 25 to 50% reduction in false alarms. We work with about 300 cities across the U.S.
Could you answer the first question I have?
Sure.
Okay, how many cities you servicing our neighborhood? Okay.
And locally in California, we work with about 45 cities right now. Southern California, we're working with about 25 cities. Yeah. Covina, Glendale, Azusa, Bell Gardens, Chula Vista, Beverly Hills.
So Covina is under your service?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Covina is under your service, and which one is nearby? El Monte?
El Monte,
okay.
Yes.
Azusa?
Bell Gardens.
Okay.
Beverly Hills, Glendale.
Okay.
Santa Monica.
And how about the number after they have your service? Did you have the numbers really reduce the false alarm?
Yeah, for Beverly Hills, we were able to reduce their false alarms by 30% in the first 18 months, I believe.
How about Covina?
Covina, their numbers, I think it's in the 10 to 20% range in the first 12 months, and then we're keeping statistics yearly.
So how much you charge Covina per month, per year?
I actually don't know off the top of my head. I didn't have
They have a $25 per
Mr. Roof, I can also add, the city establishes the fees. So it's in our resolution that'll be attached if this moves forward. We establish the fee based on the contract with the vendor. So they're not allowed to increase that fee without the council's approval in the future.
We only enforce what the city tells us to do. We do not ever increase or decrease anything of our own merit.
Okay. So if you charge $10 per household per the alarm owner, okay, and then based on and the representation that you're doing a lot of service. So my wondering is how you make money okay, unless you have some other extra charge to the alarm owner.
It's not with extra charges. Our revenue, we've actually run everything through an algorithm. And a lot of what we do, because of our online portals, it's just efficiency. We incorporate a lot of technology and a lot of AI in our solution. So the online portal makes it easier for the citizens to go in, register, take the alarm school. A lot of that is automated. We actually have 3 customer service centers in the US, and they actually service all the cities that we're working with. So we also get the benefit of economies of scale because we have so many cities that we're working with. So every new city we bring on is less expensive for us to manage that account. So even with a $10 permit fee, because you have 20,000, 30,000 residences in your city, it's going to make a difference. It's enough for us to be able to function.
I was saying, if I can add, they also get a percentage of any of the penalties because they're out there doing the legwork of collecting those fees as well. If you recall, last year we said that we were eliminating one of our positions in the finance department that was responsible for overseeing this program with the anticipation that we were going to hire a vendor to provide that service instead at a cheaper cost.
So, okay, my understanding is maybe you can help me, okay, since I own the alarm system, okay, so right now I pay monthly charge, so I pay 2 years for bundle, okay, so in that way I don't have to pay them monthly. But anyway, I pay them for the monitor about my home, okay, so for that, now I have to, okay, alarm owner like me, we have to go to apply to you, okay, and then we have to pay $10 annual fee on top of the people, okay, have monitor my house, then I have hire you, okay, contract to monitor the monitor. So meaning I have to provide the information to you online. So meaning if I have alarms, let's say, God forbid, thing happen, okay, so the thing, okay, the alarm will, okay, alarm, and then right away, and my alarm company will call me, and I don't answer, and they will call police, okay, and now they will go to you, then you will try to locate me.
No. So we do not, we only take, we only handle the billing and the collections after the incident has taken place. So if you have an alarm,
so you're not monitor the monitor.
We don't monitor it. We're not monitoring.
So you're just a building company.
Billing and collections, and education.
So more like a building. So you're not monitoring. Last time I think you talk about there are monitors. Okay, about them. Okay, we have to give all the information to you.
No.
So
we work with the alarm companies. Because you're already dealing with the alarm companies and the monitoring companies.
So basically you are the collection and the billing company, rather than we hire somebody and then you are going to collect the money. If the people have a 2-time, okay, false alarm, then you're going to charge them, and they will collect that, and that is where the money coming from.
Yes.
It makes sense now. So $10 doesn't make sense. I'm a businessman, okay? $10 doesn't make sense at all. So
I
now
agree.
the fine is what you are going to collect, and you take a percentage, since we don't have to hire the staff, okay, to do this job, so we have you to collect and billing and take a percentage. That's how you make the money.
Yeah, and because you guys are a bigger city and you have more residences here, even with $10, as the false alarms reduce and your revenue goes down, or your cost recovery goes down, our split goes down, as the false alarms reduce, our workload also goes down. So taking the percentage of the permits, which are usually automated and online, we're not in this for an immediate return on investment. We're in it for a long-term relationship. So our ROI actually comes in the 2nd year, 3rd year.
Well, you're still a profit company, you still want to, of course, you're not non-profit.
Yes.
You want to make a profit, and nothing wrong about that, okay? I want a company, same thing too. But you just be honest, okay, this is a good service. Hopefully, we think it's a good service.
Yeah, and we like to say we have 300 customers. Any one of them could be a reference for us. We really do stand by what we're offering for the city.
So this is basically not really can reduce the false alarm, because your job basically is collect and billing. So
and
meaning,
education.
And potential education, people willing to take their online classes, okay? So I got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Couple questions for both of you. So if you take a look at the cities on the slide, can you give me a rough idea of how long each of those companies have been a member working with you?
Azusa has been a couple years. Beverly Hills has been, I think, 3 to 5 years. Covina's been since 2013, I believe. Glendale has been, I'm not sure about Almani. Glendale has been, I think, 3 years, 4 years. Santa Monica is relatively new. Southgate has been a couple years. Upland has been a couple years. We've had Rialto, I think, for about 5 years. We've had San Bernardino for a number of years as well.
Okay. Are there any cities in the San Gabriel Valley that have been with you that have left?
No.
Okay, so you haven't lost any?
We haven't lost anyone due to service or anything.
Okay.
Sometimes when a city goes to a new RFP, then maybe we don't come in at the lowest percentage, and then, you know.
Okay. So I didn't notice in here, do you charge if someone has a false alarm but takes a class, do you charge for that class? And if so, what is the cost of that class?
We don't charge for the class. It's whatever the city, whatever your fee and fine schedule is, that's what we enforce. There's nothing on the back end. We don't charge a credit card fee. We don't charge a collection fee. We don't charge for alarm school. There's no back end. There's nothing on the back end. Everything is completely what your fee and fine schedule is. That's what we enforce, 100%.
Okay, and so if they have different systems, you know, looking more at the commercial side, if they have different systems for their fire and for their, you know, break-in, burglary alarm, are there 2 permit fees, or is there still one? Is it 1 per location, or is it multiple? And that's probably for us.
It would be 1 per system, but you can manage it all in the same portal.
Okay. And then I know that you've said there's 13,000 alarm companies. For an alarm company to do business in West Covina, because they're doing business, do we require a business license fee?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And so is it possible when that information comes in that from them, because we're going to be getting that information, who's your alarm company, that we can take that and check it, which could also help us with our business licensing to make sure these companies
We
have
certainly
their
can. We can
licenses?
work in tandem with PM, AM, as well as HDL to find anybody if there isn't anybody having that license. So yes.
Okay. And then as Councilman Wu had mentioned, so if he gets an alarm and then the alarm company calls him, can't get, or gets a hold of him, if he calls the alarm company and he says, oh, you know, I accidentally tripped it, if he, and this is more for the city, do we consider that a false alarm if police or fire haven't gone out? Because that happens, and I know it happens. Right. So we haven't sent anybody out, because sometimes it takes us, I hate to say it, but a half hour to get out there.
It's not, if it's canceled before the response, it's not a false alarm.
Are you sure the PNAM
So
won't
that would
charge
be
us?
automatic with them? How do we notify them?
Remember, they're not charging us. They only get a collection of any fines. So there is no charge coming from the vendor.
So it's only if, so we would fine and send it to them?
We would, yes, we would tell them that there has been a violation. They would then go through their process to notify them, educate them after the first alarm, and then they would start doing the fines as they progress.
Okay.
But again, if it's on us as a city to notify them of the false alarm.
Right, so we wouldn't notify them of a false alarm, at least on the police side, if they called and said, oh, listen, don't come out. Or,
The unique thing about PMAM in our city is they're tied into our CAD system already. They already work with clients in our CAD system. So they're going to be getting the data from our CAD system from dispatch. So so it'll be set up through our coding. If we say an alarm was canceled and no response, then there would be no billing on their end for that call.
okay, so when we saw our numbers, those were numbers that we considered a false alarm. That
Those are responses.
The actual responses.
Those are response numbers that you got. Yes.
Okay.
So if it's a response, it would be, we would have codes set off an error, accidental, owner at location, wrong code, things like that. But if it's canceled and nobody responds, they'll have that code, and that means they don't bill for those. That's not a generated call for billing.
And if I may add, should someone get billed where they believe that there's a dispute, there is an appeal process they can go through as well. And so that would be brought back through the company as well as to the police department.
The appeal, who does the appeal go to? To them or to us?
Both.
Yeah. So there could be notification through you folks, and then we'd have to work out with to make sure the CAD system information was provided.
We typically answer the first level questions in case, because some citizens have concerns or questions about the alarm. We will be your first level of support for the citizen. And if they say, no, we really want to appeal, this was something wrong, we take down what they say, and then we present it to a city official. And the city official makes the decision on whether accept or deny or reduced fine or whatever you guys decide, and we enforce whatever you decide.
And who notifies them of our decision?
We will notify the citizen of the decision after the city makes a decision.
If for Lieutenant Plunkett, is that similar to what we do with parking citations?
Yes, we do the same thing. The first level of appeal is handled through the company, and then there's a contact person, like at our department, you'd get called, they'd give us the information, and we'd make the determination whether we'd waive that fee or not. And then it would go back for collections or however they do it.
So if we went with this contract the first year, how do people find out that we have this policy, and how do we get them signed up? What happens? They say, oh, gee, I didn't know that, and it's, a year later. What happens?
So that's entirely up to the city. So we typically do a mailer out to the citizen base, either attach it to the water bill or just send a letter out to all the residences so they're aware of the program. And then if the city says, we're ignoring all false alarms for the first 3 months, just while the citizens get acclimated, we can do that as well. So it's whatever you guys decide, it's what we will enforce.
Right now in here, the recommendation is a grace period until June, right? 6 months or something like that? July 1? Yeah.
3 months. Right. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Mr. Wu.
Yeah, I'm following question of what you just asked, okay? Because the last time the presentation and this time, I'm kind of misunderstood regarding the beginning. We're thinking about your company is like another monitor and kind of help out to make sure we have reduced the false alarm. But now you tell us, okay, you basically just a collection agency. Okay, you're just a building company, and you have online thing, okay, and showing the people regarding, okay, education, like a traffic school, okay, and then so you have violation, you go to traffic school. So am I right?
Yes.
Very close, right?
Very close.
Okay,
very
and
close.
So that's why they are inexpensive, because everything online, you don't have too many of manpower you have to spend. So in that way, you save a lot of money. So in that way, you are the collection agency. How can you say you can guarantee reduce, okay, the false alarm? No, it's still enforcement by, okay, we have false alarm, and they say, okay, this is a ticket, your false alarm, and we send to you, okay, they send to you and say, okay, this family had false alarm 2 times, bill them. Okay, so, am I right?
So the reason we have 3 customer service centers is, and we have almost 175 staff, is because our customer service team is actually pretty large. When a false alarm comes in, so when we run the report weekly or monthly, whatever you guys prefer, and we get a list of the false alarms for that week, we will actually reach out to your citizens. So they will be talking to a person and learning about their alarm system, and we ask them questions. So that there are man hours that go into it on top of the automated system.
You need to spend some man hour to make the money. But my point go back to say, since, okay, for example, you say, okay, this thing can reduce, can help the resident to familiar with the alarm system. I installed the alarm system. I have an alarm company to show me, educate me, and if something go wrong, I have to call them and show up because I'm paying them to make sure my system is sound and working. And they monitor, they show up all the time to make sure my system and replace the battery and show me how to doing this, doing that. So in that way, why I need your education by I already paying for somebody already servicing my alarm system, have them to educate me. Why I need you? Okay.
You are a responsible alarm owner. We have alarm owners that have had systems in place for 20 years, and they've never had the alarm company come back out to calibrate the windows or the doors or They had a 20-pound dog, and now it's a 40-pound dog, and they never recalibrated the system for a 40-pound dog, and that sets it off. Or they've got 2 cats, and they didn't adjust the system for cats that can jump on the windowsills. Because the citizen base, a lot of citizens that are usually responsible for the false alarms don't know that they need to talk to their alarm company at least once a year to have the alarm company come back out and do a walkthrough. That's what we educate as well. We let the citizen know that.
I agree. Okay, when I received a fine, and less education, and won't do it again. So meaning, okay, the best education to false alarm is I received a fine because of my mistake. But again, go back to you not helping the monitor the system, you more as a helping the city to collect the bill. Am I right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's another issue with that, in that nowadays a lot of homeowners can install their own alarm system, and then they have a monitoring company who has never come out and will never come out. And this helps that. So do you find out what kind of system that they have, whether it or
not necessarily, because
nature?
it won't really make a difference what type of system.
So tell me how you train them.
We train them so for homeowners, we will ask them. So if they tell us, oh, I bought a DIY system from Costco and I put it in myself, we will let them know that you should probably have an alarm company come out and check the system that you installed, because if something else goes wrong, you might be susceptible to a further alarm fine. So we educate the citizen that a DIY system is not the end-all be-all, and even if they put a system in, don't wire it to a monitoring company. Just have it go to your cell phone, and that's it. And if you see something, call 911. But don't, yeah. So
yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I have. I have, like a Ring on my doorbell,
like
so I
Ring,
can watch that,
yep.
And then it calls me. Then I have cameras and motion sensors, and that will show up on my cell phone, and then I know if it's a false alarm or not, because frankly, a lot of systems now are batteries, and a battery can go bad in less than a year. I've had that, and the alarm goes off, but I know. So you have those options.
Okay, is there any other questions? Because we need to do the public hearing part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, at this time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone? Anyone? In favor of it? In favor of it? In favor, or just question? You have a question? Just question. Okay, we'll go ahead and allow questions. Go ahead.
You guys probably don't know how I really feel about this issue here, but
I think we'll find out.
Maybe. No, I'm in support of it. I think the police needs to try to get some revenues to do their job with, But I got a couple questions. Has the city staff studied the cost, maybe the causes, business versus private? How many alarms have gone off falsely? How many have gone off beyond the owner's control? How many are legit? And what about vehicles that alarms go off? What sort of impacts have they had on the police department? I think before we let this outfit that's going to come into the city and charge us fee, the city should do its job and come up with some stats as to what the real costs are. Does it merit for the city to saddle its residents with an agency that's going to charge for the purpose of trying to reduce the impact that comes with the responsibility that the police department's paid to ensure or carry out? I haven't heard the city step up to the plate and say, you know what, there's been 100 false alarm. And of the 100 false alarm, 75 of them were beyond the resident's control, or 75 of them could have been prevented had the resident been educated by an outside agency. All I've been hearing is a lot of excuses and reasons and rationales for why we should bring in an agency that's going to basically go after some revenue to try to offset the impact ostensibly to the police department, but in reality is just a fundraiser mechanism for the police department. I really appreciate the council has taken the time tonight to ask some probing questions, but I hate to always leave the city staff that too often looks to consultants to do their job, and again, just kind of plug my ears, close my eyes to the fact that they really have not given a presentation for themselves and said, you know what, we've already done the study. We have the data, and it shows that there are quite a bit of false alarms being set out there, and the impact on the police department, at least 30% of the calls are because of this reason, and it's having an adverse impact on our response time in other areas. That I would like to see come from our city staff before they recommend for you to approve another outside agency to come in and dip their fingers into our pockets. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we count that as opposed, JD? Or,
Should I still tell you?
Yeah, I don't think there was anyone here that was here to speak in favor at the time. You were, Phil? No, and then, okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and turn over to people that are opposed to it, or do you just have questions?
I'm basically opposed.
Okay, then come on. This is the basically opposed part.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. First of all, yeah, $10 a year for us, $25 for Covina. But some of these other cities that have been using this service for as long as 5 years, according to the gentleman here, have those rates gone up? If they started at $10 or $25 a year, what are they 3, 4, 5 years later? Are they still the same, or are they going up every year? And the other question I have is if it's such an issue to find out who the alarm companies are that work in West Covina, can't the police officer or fireman who goes out on these calls ask or look and see the name of each company when they go out on a call and compile a list of the alarm companies that are working in West Covina? Wouldn't that solve that problem? And there may be 13,000 in the country, but I would guess there's probably about 24 in West Covina. But it seems like it's a fairly simple way of finding out who those companies are. And, you know, this seems to me to be a solution searching for a problem.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has some degree of opposition that they'd like to share with us on this? Yep. Well, I mean, right.
Good evening. I'm Ray Edmondson, West Covina resident. Okay. I'm like 98% in favor of this, but there's just two minor things I want to see.
So not your 10%.
So break it up. All right, so for the first thing is attachment 3, resolution 2018-15, exhibit A, it's the amendment of fees. Yep. My one concern on that is there's a panic false alarm fee of $100.
There's what?
So,
where?
Yeah, panic false alarm, if you go down, it's $100.
Yeah, right.
And that's the like, there's somebody in my house, I hit the button and I want cops here now. So I do mountain search and rescue, and we go on false alarm calls, not often, but often enough that it's a thing that we talk about. And there's a huge pushback in the search and rescue field nationwide against a lot of legislatures are trying to charge for rescues. And we really don't like that. We're trying to push back against that and make it so that doesn't happen, because we already encounter situations where people think that they're going to get charged for rescue, so they don't call us, and then they die. And we don't want that to happen. So I take issue with this panic false alarm. I think if you genuinely think that there is somebody in your house and you need PD there right now, you shouldn't have a little thing in the back of your mind of, can I afford $100 right now? That should never be a thing. So I would like that to be stricken or reduced in some way. My other thing is, I'm wondering what the effect on crime rate of this is. Not, I mean, it frees up more PD, but it also at the same time is like, it might lower the amount of people using alarms because they don't want to run the risk of having those extra fees, that extra $10 a year, that extra, those false alarm fees. So I'm just wondering if there's been a study done on that. I don't, that could go either way, so I'm not sure about that one. I just want to see those numbers. That's it.
Great. Is there anyone else that wishes to share their position on this with us? Anyone? We okay? Yeah, I just want to make sure we're okay. Okay. By this time, we'll close the public testimony portion of the public hearing and ask for further council discussion.
I'd like to hear some of the answers to those questions.
Well, that would be.
Sure, I'll ask both myself.
Mr. Freeland?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. Both myself and Mr. Plunkett, as well as Mr. Narhar, will answer some of those. Regarding fees going up, that is established by the City Council, so they can't go up without approval of the City Council. So it would come back to here, and then they would have to increase those fees with regards to the registration fees. The penalty fee, there's not a study been done because we already have the penalties in place. So there's already penalties for false alarms in place. However, we've been restructuring our ordinance in order to provide it where they are more consistent with both police and fire because they had different systems. With regards to the data, I'm not sure what additional data is being needed because on the data up there was saying how much were false alarms, how much was being spent in police resources, and if we are able to reduce it even 20% or 10%, when we estimate around 7,000 hours of wasted public safety time, 10% of that 700 extra hours where public safety is out there resolving other issues. One of the items the City Council has asked us to do is look at ways to reduce response times. Okay, this is a great way to do so. Because what it's doing is, it is part education, part of it is a fine structure, but that's no different than trying to change behavior of folks, whether it be for false alarms, parking, speeding, or anything else. We put these processes in place to try and change behavior in order to benefit on the services we provide.
Mr. Mayor? Yes, Mr. Ward. So can fire and police answer what we consider a false panic alarm as opposed to if someone hits a panic alarm because they think someone's breaking into their house, is that a false panic alarm even if we don't find anybody?
There you go. No, a panic alarm would be something that's pushed that we respond to. Could be a panic alarm for a robbery type situation. It could be, and if you push the alarm because you think there's an emergency and we respond, if it's an emergency, it's an emergency. If it's believed to be an emergency, then it's believed to be an emergency. Pushing it because the clerk didn't know the button was under the counter and I pushed it on accident, that would be an accidental, where the business would now have to educate their employees where those buttons are and what they're to be used for. But if they push it in a what is perceived to be an actual emergency, then no, that's not going to be a charged event. That wouldn't be a false pushed alarm.
Thank you.
Mr. Freeland?
I do want to respond to the other speaker who asked a question about some of the data. In the staff report, and I'll read for verbatim, the West Covina Police Department responded to 7,020 alarm calls in the last 3 years, from 2014 to 2017. Of those alarms, only 143 were confirmed burglaries. That means 98% were false alarms. Similarly, the West Covina Fire Department responded to 1,418 alarm calls in the last 3 years. Of those, only 74 were confirmed fires. 95% were false alarms. These false alarms are caused by equipment malfunction, poor installation, or user errors. False alarms create a serious burden on the limited police and fire resources that result in long response times to other legitimate crimes, emergency medical services, calls, or fires.
Okay, Mr. Warshaw?
So that raises another question. So we can say it's a business. Business is closed. The alarm goes off. How do we determine that somebody didn't that it was a burglary? because the door wasn't unlocked? I mean, if they hit it hard, can an alarm go off? How do we determine, okay, they didn't get inside, but an alarm went off? How do we determine it's not a false alarm?
Well, I mean, the officers on scene do an investigation. If there's evidence of a crime, we do check for that. If there's no evidence of a crime, all the doors and windows are locked, and there's no evidence of anything, we say, hey, it set off an error or a crime. We can't actually physically enter into every building, but that would be a false alarm, and that means that something caused that to set the alarm off that probably shouldn't have. And then that's where the education comes in, to where we educate the business owner, hey, your alarm went off last night. We don't know why, but maybe you should have the company out to calibrate it, because it says the window activation went off, but the window was secure, so we don't know why that was set off. They have their alarm company come out, check it, calibrate it like Michael was talking about, and it fixes the problem, and that reduces future alarms. So that's the goal or the aim of the program.
Okay, so some people have, both residential and commercial have, depending on how hard a window is shaken. So if the alarm company comes out and says, oh, it's calibrated right, would we then take that away from being a false alarm?
I think I mean, you can dig into every single what if. It would have to be a case by case. If somebody had a specific grief where they said, hey, no, absolutely, somebody was trying to pry this window open, and that's what I believe, we're probably going to be able to see pry marks, hand marks, something that's consistent with that. So, I mean, to really answer your question, it's going to be case by case basis. Okay. But if somebody has a real gripe and we think, hey, it's a reasonable request, then we'll ask the company to go ahead and waive the fine.
I actually just real quick have something I just want to make sure I understand, because I understand the role, here of the collection part of it. I understand, we set the fees, all that stuff. I guess, the part of this ordinance I don't quite see how we make it happen is the part about the alarm installation companies and about the monitoring companies. Because there's a lot in here about what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and I guess I don't understand how we're going to make sure that, the alarm systems are going to, all the different shalls in here about how long the alarms are going to go off and all that kind of stuff. I guess I just understand if there's all these different alarms companies, how we're going to be able to do that.
Let me have the consultant come back up, because the other part of this is, remember, we're not inventing the wheel here. All these other communities are doing.
That's why
we'll let them explain how the conversion is.
I'm just trying to understand, because, when you go through here, it says, okay, we're going to have an alarm, the companies are going to do this, they're going to do that. It's like, okay, well, I don't see where that mechanism is and what we're talking about. I see us setting a fee for false alarms, and I see the whatever the town law registration fee, but I don't see where all this other stuff in between for those companies takes place. I guess that's what I want to know.
If your ordinance specifies that the alarm companies have to give us the customer database, then we will reach out to the alarm companies and say, if you're dealing in the city of West Covina, you have to release the customer database to the city of West Covina, so they know where the alarm companies are, so they can make sure that people are permitted. So we will talk to the alarm companies, and they're already part of the portal. So your ADTs, your post alarms, they're already in the portal. So when we say, okay, West Covina is now on board, they have to upload their database in there.
Okay, so then the other part of this is, okay, so this takes effect 30 days after it's adopted. But some of the language in here says after 90 days, there's all these different things on alarms that are being installed that has to be a standard that is met. And so that's going to be part of that education process, I guess, finding who these companies are. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that right? I mean, okay, because I'm just trying to figure out, because we haven't talked about, the installation of the monitoring part of it, that apparently is a key in this, because we got to have that information. That's the stuff that we supposedly want.
So
right? Supposedly it's not just all about revenue.
So when we start a project with any city, the first thing we do is provide you with the 90-day implementation plan on every step-by-step of what we're going to do. You'll see the scripts of how we will talk to your citizens. You have say in that. We present you with when you want us to send out flyers, what the educational material looks like. You have a chance to edit it. You tell us when you want us to send it out. You tell us when the program effectively starts. If we need to give multiple warnings for the first 6 months, Whatever you guys decide, it's what we enforce. We don't make decisions on our own.
Okay. I mean, I guess I understand that, but there's also all this stuff we're being asked to approve tonight, you know, as far as all those other companies, and figuring that out. I had a question. It's about the fee structure. I'm trying to remember back from our meeting where we talked about this. You know, when we charge for false alarms now, it was like 7th, right, or something like that. I mean, it was like something like that. Is that correct? Like you had to have 7 false alarms, you know, until you got a fee. Is that right? Or something, some number? What kind of numbers were it? I don't remember.
3 false after. I can't. I believe it's either 3 or 4. Excuse me.
Is that fire? Or
it's not
police?
7.
Both
police and fire.
And they're the same. They were the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, right now the ordinance is only written for police, so fire we're just assuming that it would apply, since right now the municipal code is only written for police alarm systems. There's absolutely no mention of fire alarm systems.
Right. So then why isn't that part of this ordinance of including fire in it then? If we're going to just assume it's the same.
Can you repeat the question?
Well, you said, yeah, this what we're approving here tonight.
What we're approving tonight will be fire and police.
Okay.
It was previously just
And
worded in the
previous,
current.
we just treated fire as if it was police. Is that what it was?
Public
Is that
safety.
what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are any more questions? James, you want to start? You had a comment you said? And then somebody make a motion at some point or something. Oh, wait, Chris.
Just one more correction. Should the city council move forward with the revised fee in resolution 2018-15, we need to make changes to the fee structure for exhibit A and B to show that the registration renewal for both police and fire fees is $10, as well as senior residential is $10.
Okay.
It just needs to be clear.
We just need to revise it if the council wishes to move forward.
If we get there, remind us if we get there.
If we do, yes.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Toma.
So the first thing I want to say is I appreciate the presentation. You know, a lot of times we have to make decisions without a lot of stats information, so I appreciate all the effort that went into getting that kind of information about the costs and the number of false alarms and whatnot. And, you know, the stats do speak pretty loudly. I mean, 95% false alarms, 98% false alarms, that's a huge amount. And I know, like in law enforcement, you don't have the ability to respond as quickly as you want to, nor do you have the ability to investigate everything that comes in, because you just don't have that kind of people to do it. So we're spending, you know, nearly $1 million cost in police and fire hours responding to false alarms, because the individual owner, you know, it's an externality. They don't have to pay that if they're able to constantly go to 911, have somebody else deal with it. It doesn't cost them anything. And so we have to figure out some way to you know, if everyone were responsible and everyone had a great, you know, fire police alarm installation, we wouldn't have to deal with this. But we do, obviously, because the numbers say that we do. We have a big problem. So I very much appreciate that fact about the need to address this false alarm. We all want to reduce our response time. So instead of having 2 officers at a false alarm 95% of the time or 98% of the time, they can actually be dealing with real problems. So I think that's important. I get how the business works. You know, it's a marginal cost issue, right? The business has a certain setup costs, create the infrastructure for the software, et cetera, and then every city they get down the road, like you said, it just costs less. And they're relying essentially upon cities figuring out some sort of reasonable rate for their fine structure. So it's not really their problem. I can see how they just rely. They know that the cities have a certain cost structure for what this costs their police and fire to respond to all these false alarms. They're going to set something that makes sense, and so they just rely upon that. They don't have control over it, but they understand with their business model that cities have an incentive to do something that makes sense. So I get how they can do a lower cost, and they're going to go for volume, because that's how they're going to make some of their money off the fines, and through those fines cut down on these false alarms. I understand that. So I think this is a big problem. I spoke about this the last time, and again, I do appreciate the info about that. Ultimately, you know, it's up to the city to set whatever fees, which we've done. And I assume that the fee structure that was pointed out with those other cities like Covina and whatnot, those are the current fees, right? Those weren't the original fees. Those are the current fees that are still in place right now, the $25, et cetera. So this is something I think that we should do, because it's a problem that we have with our public safety. And so I will make the motion to approve the ordinance.
Okay, it's been moved that we approve the ordinance. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded, and we're going to go around and comments, but it was moved by Mr. Toma and seconded by Mr. Warshaw. Mr. Wu.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I think public safety is very important. Okay, I think false alarm is the issue, but I don't know. Okay, we hired the PNAM because it sounds like it's just a collection agency with their service, and we really can reduce. Okay, and the false alarm. Okay, I'm more worried about we hire this company. This company will become a machine and gouging our residents for the fee. Okay, and that's what the future we cannot predict. But I can feel like this potential is going to be a problem for our residents to pay extra. Okay, and then the most important thing, why people want to install an alarm system? Because they want the safety. Okay, they want to make sure they are safe. So they install the alarm system, they put a camera, they put a sky belt, okay, and they have a Rottweiler, okay, big dog, okay. Hopefully, okay, they can protect their family. Again, that's what this is about. Now we have this kind of collection agency imposed to our resident. Okay, possible if anything you move, you're going to charge you tremendous amount. We don't know. Okay, and that maybe will reduce our resident try to install the alarm system. Or, okay, they feel like they're threatened and this and that. They don't want to put the panic alarms, okay, and then they could endanger themselves. This is the concern I have, okay. Public safety is very important. Okay, false alarm, well, it will create some, okay, charge. But how can we protect our residents? I don't think to hire PMAN, that will reduce our crime, will improve our public safety. It will just like collection agency to collect money from the resident, okay, and to furnish, okay, what maybe, okay, what our manpower don't have. Because again, I just asking you what this about. Okay, this about is, okay, you're not monitoring anything. You basically is we have a false alarm, then we give you the system, and then we told you who you have to bill, then you bill them and you collect. If they don't pay, you impose about maybe 10%, 20%, 30%, okay, about this, okay, late fee and charge. That's right. Let's guarantee this is what the business is about. So in that case, I don't think I cannot guarantee that this will work to reduce, okay, false alarm. But more important thing, that potential create our future more problem for our residents. Don't even want to install the alarm system, or they use the alarm system. They even don't pay for the monitor. They just have an alarm system, but they don't pay for monitor, because in that way, they don't have a false alarm. They don't have to worry about, okay, and the false alarm and then get collection account and charge. So this is something totally, okay, anti-public safety. So in that way, I cannot support this service.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, first of all, I'd like to say to Lieutenant Plunkett, thank you very much. It was a great presentation. You know, we keep hearing all along that our police are just a couple minutes away, you know, on certain items. Our problem is we've seen how many false alarms we've had. 98% of the alarms are false alarms. If our police officers are going out for these false alarms, where are they when we really need them someplace else? And another thing, we're not hiring this consultant. He's there. If there's no fines, he's not getting paid anything. So it's not costing the city anything for him to be on board. We need somebody to do this. I don't want our police department to have to be collecting fines. They have enough to do as it is. We need someone, if there's a fine, if we do have habitual false alarm people, something has to be done about it. We can't have our police department keep going out there 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times with no recourse. I don't have a problem. I think a $10 fee, I think is a reasonable fee. We asked them to come back. When we had the $25 fee, we didn't agree with it. We wanted them to come back. I think they did a great job, and I will be supporting this tonight.
Ms. Warshaw.
Thank you. I agree with Councilmember Toma and pretty much with Councilman Johnson. I think a $10 fee is nothing. People do have alternatives. They can do what I do. I monitor the system, and I call the alarm company, and I can be quicker than the alarm company because the alarm company doesn't have to call me back, and that is available to anybody. So there are alternatives. We need our police responding to the right calls, and this will give them more time to respond to calls that are of an urgency. Hopefully, eventually, there'll be very few false alarms. That's good for the city, it's good for our residents, it's good for our business. So I will be supporting this.
Okay. Before we vote, I just had one quick question that I guess I'm a little confused by, and that is, our current policy says 3 false alarms and we start charging you, is that right? Okay, how come that hasn't reduced the number of, or why do we have the huge number of false alarms we have now? If, I mean, we're not enforcing that, or are you saying the fines weren't big enough to get that down? Or I guess that part I don't understand. Were we not enforcing it?
No, we have been enforcing it, but it's actually very time consuming and it's difficult. They haven't been able to stay on top of the false alarms because of the position we eliminated that was doing the work.
Okay.
So they are doing it, but there is a backlog in the system.
Yeah,
but then alone, it's not, we don't do an education cycle or other information which the vendor will be able to provide.
Yeah, well, when we eliminated that position, I don't think it was conveyed to us that somehow the work wasn't going to get done because we were going to go through this process and hire someone outside, wasn't it? I mean, you didn't say we're going to eliminate this position and we won't be able to enforce this.
I think we did actually. Well, I didn't say we weren't going to enforce it. I don't think that's what I'm saying. I'm saying when we eliminated the position, this was what we were doing because it was a time we were reviewing the false alarm several months ago before we did the RFP.
Oh, at that meeting before
Yes.
that? Well, okay, so the majority may have done it then.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, got it, okay. Any other questions? Let's do a roll call, please.
Could I
You may.
read the ordinance
Yes, you may.
titles? Ordinance number 2335, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of West Covina, California, finding that this ordinance is not subject to review under the California Environmental Quality Act, repealing Chapter 4.5, Alarm Systems, and amending the West Covina Municipal Code with the addition of a Chapter 4, Police Alarm Systems, pertaining to alarm registration, a regulatory scheme for administering and managing the city's response to alarms, fees, fines, appeal process, and providing other matters properly relating thereto. And ordinance number 2336, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of West Covina, California, finding that this ordinance is not subject to review under the California Environmental Quality Act, and amending the West Covina Municipal Code with the addition of a Chapter 4.5, Fire Alarm Systems pertaining to alarm registration, a regulatory scheme for administering and managing the city's response to alarms, fees, fines, appeal process, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Johnson?
Aye.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Spence?
No. Motion passes 3-2. Item number 13,
Can we have a resolution also?
that was a part of that?
No, that was just for the ordinances,
Okay.
as I thought. Was that to approve the resolution as well?
Yeah.
As corrected?
Yeah,
That was part of the motion, I
That's what I thought.
clarified, then that's fine, thank you.
okay. Yeah, item number 13, our financial report. Mr. Freeland, is there a report or?
There will be. I'm going to have Nicole Lugatoff come down and she and I will give a presentation to the City Council.
A short presentation?
What's that?
Short presentation?
Yes. We will spend a little bit of time just to make sure that the information is conveyed to the public. Oh.
Do we have any other announcements we'd like to make? Or anything?
Shadow puppets.
Video that you had at,
Oh, I can't. I don't know the information. All right, Mr. Mayor, we are ready to make our presentation.
Mr. Freeland, please make your presentation.
Thank you. I'll have our Acting Finance Director, Nicole Lugatoff, to start that presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. The second quarter financial report is being presented to provide a status update of the city's financials as of December 31st, 2017. Okay. As of December 31st, general fund revenues totaled $18.8 million. The general fund's largest revenue source, property tax, has $4.5 million recorded at December 31st. The next largest revenue source, sales tax, has $5 million recorded at the end of the second quarter. Sales tax revenues are down approximately $256,000 due to underperformance in the auto industry and general consumer goods. In addition, the sales tax sharing payment from the CFD to the general fund in the amount of $484,000 was made during the third quarter this year compared to the second quarter last year. And these account for the $733,000 variance between fiscal year 16-17 and 17-18 in the second quarter. The franchise tax revenues are also down due to the one-time Athens contract amendment revenues received last fiscal year for approximately $650,000. Revenues from other agencies are down due to less revenue received from the Prop A exchange. This graph shows the year-over-year revenue comparison for the general fund's major revenue sources. The general fund's expenditures total $32.3 million at December 31st, which is 51% of the $63.8 million budget. This is slightly higher than the prior year, where 50% of the general fund's annual expenditures were also incurred by the end of the second quarter. At the June 22, 2017 special budget meeting, City Council directed staff to take advantage of the prepayment option for the PERS unfunded liability payment for fiscal year 17-18. To make expenditures comparable to the prior year, only 50% of this prepayment has been included in the second quarter financial report. This slide shows the year-over-year comparison for expenditures by department during the second quarter. This is showing you the general fund expenditures by category, breaking out the personnel services, materials and supplies, capital outlay improvements, and the transfers out.
And if I may add, there was a request by the resident earlier in this evening asking for a breakout of personnel costs versus materials and services. This is what was attached to the staff report. Yeah.
And here is the year-over-year comparison for expenditures by personnel services and materials and supplies spent during the second quarter. And this slide shows the year-over-year comparison for personnel expenditures by department during the second quarter. And as you can see, the fire department has the most significant increase in personnel costs due to the ending of the SAFER grant and those positions now being charged to the general fund.
And if I can note real quick on that, one of the requests or was part of this year's budget was a 3% managed savings in police and fire. With the overtime matter with the end of the SAFER grant, it's going to be very difficult for the fire department to meet that 3%. So we're trying to find areas where we can reduce expenditures in the fire department as best as possible this year, as well as in the police department, to make sure that the police department is able to meet that 3% too.
So once again, as of December 31st, the general fund revenues total $18.8 million, while the expenditures total $32.3 million. The excess in expenditures over revenues equals the $13.5 million reduction in fund balance. This gap will close as major revenues, such as our property and sales tax, are received during the remaining course of the year. So although the second quarter represents 50% of the fiscal year, not all the line items will be at 50% of the budget at the end of the second quarter. And as you can see, the current unassigned fund balance is 1.26%. So some budget challenges. The city is continuing its efforts to implement structural changes throughout the organization to improve efficiency and address current year budget constraints. While revenues and expenditures as of December 31st are relatively in line with the prior year, analyzing the current year expenditures show that the city is on track to exceed the current year budget, as expenditures are at 51% and not at 50%. In an effort to meet the budgeted expenditures, vacant general funded non-public safety positions are not being filled. Delays in implementing staff changes in the fire department due to the conclusion of the SAFER grant has resulted in higher than anticipated general fund costs. Annualizing current expenditures does not take into consideration any unanticipated costs that were not included in the adopted budget. For example, staff is projecting deficits in both the general and auto liability and workers' compensation internal service funds due to a high number of claims being paid out. And the city's sales tax consultant recently provided staff with updated sales tax projections for fiscal year 17-18. These projections are based on the most current data available and show that the city will receive approximately $1 million less in sales tax revenues than what was originally projected. The failure to reach a restructuring agreement with the Firefighters Association is costing the city approximately $130 a month. City staff anticipates
$130,000.
What did I say? I'm sorry.
That's like $130.
Sorry.
I thought you said 130,000.
Okay. I'll close on my side. $130,000 per month. Staff anticipates staffing changes to be fully implemented by March 2018. Barring any further delays, this will be a total cost to the general fund of approximately $1 million in overtime costs. At the special council meeting held on January 8, 2018, City Council directed staff to bring back a budget amendment to appropriate general fund balance in the amount of $150,000 for for special events coordinated by the Community Services Department. And then per the city's fund balance reserve policy, the internal service funds must be fully funded each year and therefore are not allowed to end the fiscal year with a deficit. Since these funds largely provide a benefit to the city's general fund, most of the anticipated deficits as a result of a high number of claims being paid out will need to be covered by the general fund. However, due to the current general fund constraints, staff is recommending a one-time transfer in the amount of $500,000 from the debt service fund to the general and auto liability and workers' compensation funds. As previously mentioned, the city is anticipated to receive approximately $1 million less in sales tax revenue than what was originally projected, which is attributed to the underperformance in the auto industry and general consumer good industry, a state audit correction that backed out revenue mistakenly allocated to the city last year, and tow industries has yet to relocate to the city. So based on the budgetary challenges outlined, staff is recommending a budget amendment to adjust revenues and expenditures to match year-end projections. Staff will continue to closely monitor city revenues and expenditures to ensure that further budget concerns are addressed and brought to City Council's attention as soon as possible. The fiscal year 17-18 adopted budget included a $55,000 surplus of budgeted operating revenues over operating expenditures. Since the adoption of the budget, various budget amendments have been approved by Council, which adjusted both the revenue and expenditure budgets. Most notably was the approval of approximately $567,000 of the general fund's fund balance for street rehabilitation. This appropriation allows the city to meet the maintenance of effort requirements in order to receive new road maintenance and rehabilitation, which is SB1. The $995,000 budget decrease in the fund balance also includes various CIP and PO carryovers from fiscal year 16-17, along with the decrease in the crossing guard revenue for $84,000. The proposed budget amendment will decrease the general fund revenues by $1,015,000, increase the general fund expenditures by $1,250,000, and decrease the fund balance in the general fund by $2,265,000. Based on these appropriations, the budgeted unassigned fund balance at June 30th, 2018 will be $11,037,913, or 16.97%. This is $1,973,000 less than what is needed to meet the city's fund balance reserve policy of 20%. To help offset the reduction in revenues and increase in expenditures, vacant general fund non-safety positions will not be filled. And an update on the city's capital improvement program. The following CIP projects were completed during the quarter. Palmview Park soccer field improvements, Sunset Avenue median improvements, Orangewood Park soccer field improvements, and traffic signal at Francisquito and Sunset Avenue. I will take any questions at this time.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add a couple items for clarification. Nicole mentioned the additional about $600,000 in general fund that we had to appropriate this year for Senate Bill 1 funding. So that is our new requirement moving forward. In order to get those Senate Bill 1 funds, which is the increase in gas tax and registration, the city, all cities have to do what's called maintenance of effort. Whatever general fund dollars they had spent during this, on average, 3-year period, look-back period that the state legislature looked at, they said all cities had to continue to provide that general fund obligation, so that way it wouldn't be that the new SB1s or SB1 funds were supplanting those general fund dollars. So in order to get the increase of about, I think it's a couple $1 million a year as it expands, we have to continually spend $600,000 of general fund dollars in order to get those transportation funds moving forward. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, question on that. Did we not figure that in our budget? Did we not know that?
We didn't. It wasn't. Senate Bill 1 hadn't been effective at that time.
Okay, and so we had no idea that we would have to do that this year.
Well, there was discussion that would not be part of the legislation. And so that's why it was not included at that time. We wanted to make sure at that point. Two is, as Nicole mentioned about the general fund reserve policy, as we're moving forward, the policy says that we're supposed to have an idea or a plan of how we're going to close the gap back to the 20%. So that is why I've instituted, a freeze on general fund positions other than public safety until the end of the fiscal year in order to hopefully close the gap, one, but also two, we're looking at other ways to close the gap with general fund dollars in the various departments. If we're unable to close that gap at the end of this year, the council will have options of either changing the fund policy or having to do, if we have increased revenues at the end of the year that can offset this, or we have to make additional cuts that pertain to next year in order to balance the reserves as well. So those will be things we'll discuss in the third quarter as well as at budget as well.
You said something about that we weren't going to fill public safety positions?
No, those are public safety, the only ones we are filling. Okay. However, I will say that as part of the managed savings in the police department,
that of course is.
They're not filling the police positions because they're able to actually. It's cheaper for them to give the officers overtime than it is to fill the positions.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions from anyone else, Mr. Warshaw?
Yes. So one of the big problems with us going over budget so far is the police department, the fire department. And that seems to be the overtime. And although it was given to us, as was mentioned, we expected to be able to lower that earlier this year.
Sure, if I can expand. As part of the budget, we had a process to go through with the California State PERB, our Public Employee Relations Board, as City Attorney alluded to earlier tonight. That process should have been wrapped up months ago. Unfortunately, there was delays through the PERB program that we did not get the finding until just, a week and a half ago.
Right. And
so this is something that should have been resolved, I would say, September, October of last year. So unfortunately, it got delayed many, many more months, and it was $130,000 of general fund per month to do that.
And did we do anything starting in October to find out why we weren't getting an answer?
We were emailing PERB twice or 3 times a week, and I'll let the city attorney address that even more so.
Yeah, the fact finder was communicated with directly a number of times, and unfortunately wasn't terribly responsive. Eventually, we had to reach out to other PERB representatives and employees to try and expedite the process.
Okay, Mr. Toma?
Just to follow up on that, and that is required by state law that you have to follow through with the PERB process before you can continue, correct?
That's correct.
Any other questions? Any discussion? Obviously, some of the issues we have are contractual obligations that we end up in as we go through this process. That's actually a lot of our problems, to be honest. But yeah, but anyways, anything else? Is there a motion? Is there a motion on this item? Okay, I guess there's no motion. Mr. Toma?
Move to receive and file.
Actually, we have a resolution that needs to be adopted.
You got to run it up there, yeah.
So if you can receive the second quarter report and adopt resolution 2018-13.
It does say receive and file up there, though. But yeah.
and adopt the resolution.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Toma that we
Second.
receive and adopt the resolution, and second by Mr. Johnson. Is there any objection to consent? Okay, it's approved 5-0. Okay, any AB 1234 reports? Is there any discussion from the council on any item? I have one on the PERB ruling. One, I encourage everyone to read it. And two, can we put it online?
Yes, we can. Now it's public, and it will be available online
Unbelievable.
Tomorrow.
You can provide a summary if you wish.
Basically, the PERB, instead of actually talking about the specific issues that the complaints were, told us that we needed to pass a tax, put a tax on the ballot, campaign for it, pass it, and then give it to the firefighters. Only. That was the recommendation from the PERB ruling.
California State Public Employee Relations Board.
I think very well.
I'm serious. You got to read it. You got to read it. Yeah.
Read it.
Anyways, we'll talk about that at our March meeting at a public hearing.
I have an announcement.
Mr. Warshaw.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that I think it was about 2 months ago, the City Council approved a recommendation which came through the National League of Cities about what we call the SLWA program. The SWLA program is basically a company, Service Line Warranties of America. And what they do is you have, every residence has a sewer line and a water line. The water company does not pay for anything from your meter to your home. And the same thing goes with the sewer company. From the main line in the street to your home is not covered by the sanitation or by the city. You are responsible for that. So if you have a problem, you're talking about digging up your yard, talking about literally thousands of dollars to fix that. What has happened is the City Council approved for this company to send out a notice to you that they have a program where you pay a small annual service and it will warranty you if there is a problem, and it's relatively expensive. I cannot talk about the price. You can get information via our website or go to Service Line Warranties of America, and it will give you the price of doing that insurance. The City Council had a choice of collecting $5 for every one they sold. The City Council opted to get you a $5 discount a year, not anything to go to the city if you decide to go with that. So it's literally every person who has property in West Covina that has this option, and I wanted to make you aware of it because it could save you thousands of dollars.
Mr. Freeland.
Just want to make another announcement of another community meeting that's occurring next week, which is the 28th. Chick-fil-A is having a community meeting about the potential of coming into our Elephant Bar Center, or Elephant Bar Restaurant. It is at, let me get the email up here real quick.
It's 20th at 4 o'clock?
It's from 4 to 6 p.m. at the community center at the Colony at the Lakes on the 28th. And my understanding is Chick-fil-A is providing some food and refreshments. So, what's that? Yes, and the mayor had already mentioned the State of the City address is coming up, and we mentioned the public safety lunch as well. So we have a lot of things happening here in the next upcoming month.
And April's also going to be the month of the pension meeting.
What's that? We already talked about, yes.
Okay, anything else? Then we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, you're welcome.
An hour later than last.
I told my wife 10:30.
An hour later than last meeting, but that's all right.
All I know is I kept turning to the left and Warshaw was going on.